point of that was that he couldn't understand what they were saying in the joke, and he was taking everything personally.
Yeah.
They don't mock, and you know what? At most, it was a unique joke to Ye.
Yeah.
With Trump, they were just like, I don't know. He's got a small dick.
Right.
Just show it.
Yeah.
Like, guys, you could be funny, you know. But let's jump to this next story. We got this from Politico. Judge orders Kilmar Abrego Garcia released from criminal custody.
Well, that's insane.
Though immigration enforcement officials
have been shot. This is the same number as the number of Israeli civilians that were killed on October 7th.
There has not been a demonstrated pattern of a desire to eradicate the Palestinian people or eradicate a Palestinian state. If there was, you would have seen a war in the West Bank as well.
Well, there is a war on Palestinians in the West Bank. Thousands of Palestinians being driven from their homes, more than 1,000 Palestinians killed since October 7th, in a place that is not ruled by Hamas, in a place where there are no hostages.
Either you starve to death or you get shot to death. These are death traps.
Frankly, you would just have to be a moral monster at this point to defend it and whitewash it.
There's no single authority or panel to determine what constitutes a genocide or who is responsible for it. The United Nations, international courts, lawyers and historians have to piece together the evidence dispassionately and over time. It's not something that happens suddenly either. It's a long process. Discrimination, persecution, preparation, extermination. Activists use the word very freely, and they pressure everybody else to do the same. They do that because we all know genocide is the very depth of depravity. And if we agree that it's happening, then we're more likely to stop it. But use it too freely, and it devalues the meaning of a word that has to be reserved for the gravest crimes against humanity. Some people began talking about an Israeli genocide within days of the war in Gaza. I didn't agree. Hamas had genocidal intentions, and we know that because they kept saying it. But that doesn't mean an initially justified war can't become a genocide. And the number of sensible people using the G word about Israel is increasing by the day, not just celebrities, anti-Semites or Greta Thunberg, but real experts who study this for a living. Dutch newspaper NRC recently carried out very detailed interviews with genocide scholars in the United States, the UK, Australia, Croatia, and Israel. They all agreed that Israel's conduct has passed the legal threshold. It's a thorny, complicated subject, but a very important one. Israeli-born historian Omar Bartov is one of the world's leading experts on genocide. He's also a former IDF soldier, and he joins me now. Well, welcome to Uncensored, Omar Bartov. Really good to have you. You've written a powerful piece, headlined for the New York Times. Let's say headlined, "I'm a genocide scholar. I know it when I see it." And immediately, I've been reading rebuttals from people such as John Spencer, the chair of urban warfare studies at the Modern War Institute, who's taken your piece, dismantled it, and explained why none of this is right. So it's a very emotive issue, this. But you are a scholar in this subject. And for those who are watching who are just curious why this constitutes a genocide, explain to me in simple terms why you now believe this is a genocide.
So first of all, hi, and thanks for having me. Look, I mean, like you, I think, I initially, let's say in November 2023, it appeared to me that the IDF was already carrying out war crimes and potentially crimes against humanity. But I did not think at the time that there was enough evidence to say that this was a genocidal campaign. There had been declarations by Israeli political and military figures, people with executive authority, that appeared to have a genocidal content, but it was not clear that this was being implemented on the ground. And I changed my mind in the spring of 2024 when I concluded that the official war goals of Israel, which were to destroy Hamas and to release the hostages, were not the actual goal of the campaign itself. The campaign was geared to accomplish something else, which was to make Gaza as a whole uninhabitable for its population by systematically destroying buildings, including universities, schools, mosques, parks, water plants, museums, whatever would be available for the population after the war to live in, but also to reconstitute itself as a group. So it appeared to me at the time, and of course now there's far more evidence to show that the goal was to push the population out of places where it was living under the cover of saying, well, this is going to be an area of operations, then to move into those areas, totally flatten them, as had been said in the initial statements by these leaders, and concentrate the population increasingly in the southern part of Gaza, of the Gaza Strip, on the Egyptian border, with the goal of somehow getting rid of them, moving them out. So this appears like ethnic cleansing, but the big difference is that in ethnic cleansing you can actually move, hypothetically at least, the population out of the area that you want for yourself. But since the Palestinians can't go anywhere else, they are locked in that area, then every safe zone.
My fellow citizens, my fellow. We will prevail.
We're ready, Mr. President.
My fellow citizens, today represents a dark day in our history. With this monstrous, unprovoked attack, no country is safe from their reach. For all those serving on our behalf, our prayers go with you. For the Pax Armada mercenaries who are watching now, I have a message. It's over.
Let's get to work.
I'm your masters of war. Hear the bells of big guns. You hide behind walls. 30 seconds. Ain't turn and run farther when the fast bullets fly.
Move fast. Move decisive. Dagger on my 6.
Send it.
And I hope that you die. And your death will come soon. I'll follow your casket by the pale afternoon. I'll watch while you clear the ship now. And I'll stand over your grave, 'cause I'm sure that you're dead.
Take the target for the F-61.
I'll watch while you learn. And I'll stand over your grave, 'cause I'm sure that you're dead. Masters of war.
Be redetained when he arrives in Maryland.
Cod or whatever it is.
Did not meet the standard for publishing, as it was uncorroborated, and it was a sentence fragment they could not corroborate, but ordered Brennan to publish it anyway. What did Brennan do? Despite all of everything they were saying, now you can make the argument, oh, okay, well, never attribute to malice that which can be explained by incompetence. Obama's just dumb. Nobody's going to believe that.
Nobody's going to believe
No sane, rational person is going, Obama was just a bumbling moron. No, Obama intentionally had them release that information as a predicate for the Russiagate hoax, which resulted in the arrest of several of Trump's associates, falsified evidence against Carter Page, Ukraine leaking damning information against Manafort, and then, not to mention Flynn, Papadopoulos, and Trump himself, who they targeted him for 3 years as a potential traitor to this country. If that's not a crime, you want to tell me that there's some dude who bashed an ATM open is going to jail? I got to tell you, the dude who grabbed $73 out of a cash register at a bodega did substantially less damage to this country than Barack Obama did.
The J6ers who peacefully walked around the Capitol for 20 minutes.
In the velvet ropes.
Exactly.
So
They behave themselves unlike BLM.
Conspiracy against rights is the easiest if you're trying to be a paladin. If you want to be a rogue who wins, it is, I don't know, pick and choose. We can probably get him on a lot of things.
But look,
The nature of politics this is what irks me about the Republican Party. The Republican Party pretends that the nature of politics is, well, let me take a look at this here piece of paper. Let's see what we got here. It says here that we can't charge Obama. Drats. After everything he did, looks like he got away with it. Democrats go like, the law says that, anyway, arrest him. That's how the Democrats run.
I'm in 100% agreement with if they can come up with something, then I'm perfectly fine with it because go ahead.
What they can do, Phil, right away is they can subpoena Obama to appear before Congress. Obama will lie under oath as he has time and again, and then hit him with the same thing they hit everyone else with, all
Perjury
the
trap.
conservatives, all the perjury traps. By the way, Fauci, we know he perjured himself.
Yep.
Before the House committees on the question of gain of function.
Why aren't they arresting him?
Why is Kash Patel not at Fauci's door in Glover Park with an FBI squad taking him into custody?
They should.
How many conservatives have they thrown in prison because of that? Right? And so Fauci, charge him tomorrow, but Obama, just subpoena him. Can you imagine, by the way, House Republicans and Senate Republicans calling Obama the optics of that, having to explain himself? It'll be the most watched congressional testimony. The second he says something, have Cash Tim, have Cash and Dan Bongino take him into cuffs right after the meeting's over. They won't do it.
They won't do it.
Why?
Mike Cernovich made a great point today. He said with, Thomas Massey, he's got this picture of him with this binder on the Epstein files. How come none of these people, these Democrats or Republicans who want the Epstein files released, have had any hearings on Epstein and called in the prosecutors, Comey's daughter perhaps, or even people like him to testify as to what Epstein was doing? So, I forgive me if I'm going to be a little pessimistic. I know Trump has done a lot of really great things, and I still think he's the best president of my lifetime because he's gotten things done. But I don't think the system is going to change. I don't think they're going to go after the corruption. I think you got two high-profile, powerful, high seats of power in politics, and they're basically saying, I don't feel like the fight. Fauci should be in jail.
Yes.
Even Newsweek published he lied to Congress and lied under oath. Rand Paul has reiterated numerous times and referred him to the DOJ. It is the simplest case
It's
ever.
the simplest case.
It is in public. He did this. And he lied about gain-of-function research. He said they weren't doing it. They were doing it. Great. Pam Bondi could have a warrant for his arrest overnight, and they won't do it. Why?
Well, the reason is because that, just like Aaron McIntyre, our friend, says, is they just don't have the courage, right? Like, if you don't exercise power when you have it, which is what the Republicans should do, but if you don't exercise power when you have it, your enemies absolutely will. And that's what the Democrats have shown over and over and over. They arrested Trump, they arrested all of his lawyers, prosecuting all of his lawyers, etc. All these people, they got the mugshots and stuff. They will do it if they get back into power. So the Republicans absolutely have to do this stuff, or else the American people are going to totally lose faith in that they have the ability to actually make changes.
Correct. And make no mistake, Barack Hussein Obama is a treasonous criminal, but Anthony Fauci is a murderer. Anthony Fauci's death count is well over 5 to 10 million people because of the gain-of-function China virus, right? He lied about that. And so the time they spent, Tim, that little intern of Pam Bondi's, printing those binders and putting them together and bringing them to the East Wing of the White House, they could have written the 4-page indictment. That's all you need is 4 pages. On this date, he said this. That was a lie according to Exhibit A. Therefore, we are charging him with U.S. Code Title 18. Boom. Take him into custody. Bring him before the court.
Indeed. Let's jump to this next story. This is from the New York Times. Appeals court blocks Trump's attempt to restrict birthright citizenship. The ruling from the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit brings the White House's theory of citizenship closer to a full Supreme Court review. In the meantime, of course, Trump is being blocked, and you know what I was thinking? We have another story here. J.D. Vance pushes for automation of agricultural industry, no amnesty for illegal immigrant farm workers. I'm going to put on my conspiracy cap for a second. If you knew the history of, say, like the Luddites, how automation took their jobs away, this largely what they imposed was the automation made their work and destitute, you would plan for AI and automation. What's a clever way to deal with it? Mass migration. That's the problem. The people react to it, and then you offer them the solution. You know what we're going to do? We're going to deport all of those people who took your jobs, and you know what? We're going to replace them with robots. If you just said we are going to fire our farm workers and replace them with robots, you'd have riots.
Yes.
But if you replace the workers slowly over time with illegal immigrants, piss off all the people, about the jobs being taken away.
Correct.
Then J.D. Vance says, we're going to get rid of them and replace them with robots. Now there's no one to protest. So maybe that was the play. I don't know. Conspiracy theory.
Well, it's an interesting one, right? Because they're both bad, but to your point, the way it was sequenced out, right? You have Kilmar picking the strawberries, or more appropriately, the 10-year-old who's forced to pick Chelsea Handler's weeds so she can.
Kilmar was picking the people.
He was picking the people and transferring them in his trunk. Look, automation should not be opposed for automation's sake. The reason, though, we've automated car factories for the past 70, 80 years is that actually in some agricultural spaces, like strawberries, for example, it doesn't make sense to automate. These are delicate fruits that humans need to pick. You don't need migrants to do that. You don't need slaves to do that. You can pay Americans a dignified, living, fair market wage, and they'll gladly do that work, Tim.
Yeah, I mean, I've heard that the part of the reason why they don't have an automated strawberries is because the low-pay workers are an option.
They're cheaper.
Yeah. So
cheaper than the robots.
Well, not only that, but they haven't made the robots, because they have robots that can do sorts of things.
Agrobot, Octinian, and Harvest Crew pick strawberries. But it's cheaper to have slave labor.
Well, it's cheaper to have slave labor, there's no question about that. The question is whether it makes sense for some places to make that large upfront capital investment for robotics versus even paying folks $20, $25 an hour. So it's not a clear-cut thing.
Sure.
Right? Some places have kiosks like McDonald's. Some places actually like In-N-Out Burger, you walk up and you order your burger and fries.
So how far out do you think automated humanoid robots like Optimus? How long do you think until those could do the job that immigrant workers are doing now?
So I spent a lot of time thinking about this because I run an investment firm, and Tesla's among our largest positions. So we have to think about and model out Optimus. So as we speak right now, Optimus is serving popcorn at the Tesla diner.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. Serving popcorn totally autonomously. You go up to it, hands you the thing, puts it in there, hands it over.
I don't believe it. They had that party with the Optimus bots, and it turned out they were remote controlled.
But they admitted that. What they've said now is this is actually an autonomous Optimus robot. That was 8 months ago. It's now been trained on the model even better. Now, it's not talking to you in a coherent way, but it's all it's doing is grabbing the popcorn, putting it in, handing it over to you.
Grok.
I mean, they can add Grok to it, and they added Grok to Tesla. To your question,
No, because I have Android, and it used to be the Bixby digital assistant. I would just press the button and say weather, and then it would pull up a window showing the weather. Now it's some weird guy going, "Hi Tim, the weather for today is going to be." I'm like, "Shut your mouth!
Just give me the weather.
Just give me a picture I can look at."
Correct.
Now it just goes, "Today's weather is going to be a high," and I'm like, "It takes longer."
That's why ChatGPT is really impressive. What they're building out at OpenAI is because they have what's called memory and they have context. So if you tell ChatGPT once, Tim, I only want you to give me the weather or show me an image, it will remember that across all your devices.
Well, do you guys know who Gunther Eagleman is on X?
Yeah.
I do, yeah.
Grok says that he killed a guy.
No way.
Yeah, something like that. And
Robbie Starbuck was defamed by a chatbot,
Yeah, I think, who was it? Was it GPT?
It was a Meta.
Oh, it was Meta.
He said that he destroyed capital.
Yep. And so I saw this thread. Gunther Eagleman is like, "You were wrong. I did not kill anybody." And it was like, arguing with him. It was like, I don't know. It was like a police report saying you did. And then he posted a picture of the police report. It was a different guy with a similar name.
Interesting.
And then Grok was like, "I hereby retract all statements. I was wrong."
Oh, wow.
And I thought, that's really interesting. Like, what? Why would it just assume every cent was real? So I opened up the Grok app, and then I typed it in, did Gunther Eagleman kill a guy? And it said, yes, he did. It said, there are conflicting reports. However, a man of the same name did slash someone in the neck, killing him, or something like that. I don't know if he killed him. And it was like, though he has disputed this in the past. And I'm like, wait. You can't just say that about somebody.
Yeah.
Now, he's a public figure to a certain degree. I don't know what the law would be on that in that regard. But it is wild that two things in this. We know they lie about everybody, and we know that they hallucinate and make things up. But it was really rather shocking to me that on X, he posted an image of the police report, and it immediately rewrote its own memory and backtracked everything it was saying. And I'm like, so anybody can just make fake stuff and feed it into the AI?
Yeah.
There was an article written about me claiming that Tim Castiglione makes $175 million a year because I was mocking Colbert and made a joke. A news article gets written about it, and now it's a fact.
Yeah.
The AI is going to ingest that news, and so then I went to, I think, like GPT, and I said, how much does Tim Castiglione make? And it said, conflicting reports. One report suggests he makes $175 million per year, although that number seems, very high for a podcast. Typical ranges are estimated between, 5 and 8 million a year or something like that. And I'm like, no joke. Somebody literally saw a gag tweet from me, wrote a story about it. It got ingested by the training models because they're online, and now it is legitimately telling people that it's possible we make $175 million a year. It's amazing.
Right. Well, imagine what an investment algorithm would do. And if you had a stock and then all of a sudden it knew you made $175 million, it could bid your stock higher on that false information, right? But I think this goes to the point, Tim, that we're not automatically inferior to AI, because we would look at that at first blush and say, Tim's smart, he's wealthy, but that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Except there were tons of people responding being like, wow, you make $175 million?
I get some.
And then people responding with like, wow, what do you spend that money on? And it's just like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is still hallucinating, but it's still like an infant technology.
It is.
Whether it be AI or whether you're talking about robotics actually are not infant, but having robotics that can
That
do
train
things.
themselves on its own neural net, where you go to Optimus, and Optimus has never picked up books and put them on a bookshelf before, but knows through its training, through the neural net,
Wow,
that it
dude.
can do that.
ChatGPT says Gunther Eagleman stabbed the guy. Wow. Even though he wasn't. Yo, this is crazy. Gunther, you got to sue. I got to pull this up. This is crazy.
I'm sorry to hear that. But yeah, so you're saying that Optimus actually is able to train itself? Because I know that some of the ways that they have been working with the AI is basically they would put Optimus in a room with like toys, and it would literally play with toys. That's right? So they've gotten to the point where it can actually interpret, like put these on the shelf and do that stuff.
Exactly. And so the idea is use those model experiments to build out the physics engine of Optimus to train itself. But for example, if we had an Optimus here, it would never have been necessarily trained on putting books and taking the covers off and putting them on a bookshelf. Never have been explicitly trained on that, but could still render that task. That's the power of it.
Yeah.
Is you never have to train it to take out your trash or to pick something off the lawn, but it intuitively knows how to do that.
That's impressive, because I was under the impression that essentially they were training it to do things, and then once you trained one Optimus how to do things,
everything,
then all of the Optimus would know how to do this one task, but it's actually able to learn in the real world.
So train it to do, say, 5% of all things. So for example, I have never had to do the task of taking a book that is hardcover and putting the covers back on it. I've never done that in my life on a large enough task. But I know how to do it, right? And so the point is, how do you get Optimus's aggregate intelligence to be able to do tasks that it's never done before, but it can intuitively iterate and figure out how to do it on the fly?
This is actually smarter than the plug-in in the Matrix, where you plugged in and learned a certain task.
Correct. And I have a Tesla car, and it's the same thing. That Tesla car, I live in rural Florida, about 20 miles south of the Georgia line. That car has never been trained to drive in rural Florida. Never. It's never trained on my block, but it's been trained in San Francisco and other places as well, to where it's built out this end-to-end neural net that even if it's never driven on those roads, at those intersections, on those roundabouts, at those U-turns, it intuitively, neurally knows what to do next. That's how you scale it. Now, Waymo, that's the Google technology that they have. It's fixed to a geofence. So that same Waymo that can drive brilliantly in San Fran or LA or Phoenix, you put it here in West Virginia, it could not move 10 feet.
Okay, so
because it has not been expressly trained on these
they give
streets.
Waymo the map.
Exactly.
It knows where it is on the
on
Google
that map,
Okay.
but it knows nothing else. And so now what you're seeing play out is Waymo and Tesla's robotaxi in Austin, in a very similarly sized geofence, but Tesla can scale like that. Think of it this way. Austin has 1,500 Uber drivers in the Austin metro area. Tesla produces in its Texas factory 1,500 Model 3s and Model Ys every single day. That means that in one day, Tesla could totally take over and be bigger than Uber in just Austin. And then you have the fact that there are millions of Teslas all over the country that with a software update, Phil, could become this robo-taxi and pick people up. That is a massive deflationary force. I'm also excited about it because it means that rural Americans can actually have a real form of transport to get around. They need to get around. A third of the country lives in rural America, but Uber doesn't exist out there. Public transit doesn't exist out there. And robo-taxi can help getting people to church, to jobs, increase labor mobility, wages, etc.
You know, the funny thing is, there was a viral post where a guy worked for Lyft. He posted how much money he made.
Yeah.
And then he posted his yearly maintenance and repairs.
Yep.
And he lost money.
Yep. You cannot make money on Lyft.
Yeah.
You
Or Uber.
literally cannot make money on Lyft.
Any of them.
Yeah, you can't.
Yeah, the driving apps, what they've basically done is trick people into stripping the equity out of their vehicles, thinking that they're getting money, but they're actually losing.
Correct.
You'd be better off just selling half your car to somebody and then using that money and then owing them or something.
That's right.
Do you think that robotic taxis will be profitable or can be profitable?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So can you go ahead and can you unbox that?
Sure. So the biggest reason why is because they can run 24 hours a day, right? The second reason why is that it's cheaper to power an electric car than it is to power a gas car. It's about 80% cheaper, so a lot of that cost is going to come out. The third is the maintenance. The average internal combustion engine car, ICE car, has over 10,000 moving parts. The average Tesla has 90. So think about the maintenance cost, the energy cost, the scaling cost going down by a factor of 1/100. It's 100 times.
So you're saying buy Tesla stock?
I'm saying buy Tesla stock. I'll go even further.
That's financial advice.
That is financial advice. I want to be careful there. I believe you should buy Tesla stock, but I'll take it a step further. We are launching at Azoria, my investment firm, Tim. You're familiar with call options, right?
Yeah.
So we are launching a Tesla fund, the first of its kind ETF, that buys both Tesla stock and call options on Tesla stock. We think Tesla's going to $1,800 a share. It's $330 right now. It's going to $1,800 by 2030.
Can you explain long, short call?
Yeah, what's that ETF called again?
People don't understand.
It's called TSLV. It's coming out in 2 weeks. Very simply, to your point on what a call option is. A call option allows you to own more of a stock than you want to put money into. So if a stock like Tesla were to go up 20%, you could buy a call option that would only risk 1/20th of that amount of the Tesla stock, but your call option would go up 30, 40, 50%.
What is the mechanism of that?
It's an option. So it's a listed option where you're essentially going to another person saying, I want to pay you X amount of money to be able to buy Tesla above a certain price. You will sell me that because you're short because you think Tesla's going to go down. There's a lot of people who think Tesla's going to go down, a lot of short sellers. That allows you to get leverage on the Tesla stock. And so what you've seen, and Kathy Wood, I met with her about this recently. You know, she's the big investor who's been long Tesla for a decade now. She made so much of her money early on just by buying Tesla call options. Because if you told me right now, you guaranteed to me that Tesla was going to go up 40% in the next 12 months, I could put together a portfolio of options on Tesla call options that would go up 400% if I knew that it was going to go up 40%.
When Elon started flirting with buying Twitter, the stock plummeted.
Yeah.
And I'm reading the news, and we always talk about this on the show that we read the news the moment it happens.
Yeah.
And then the stock is actually behind because most people don't learn as quickly as we do because we're on the forefront. So when the Tesla thing happened, I thought to myself, how insane that Tesla stock would go down because people are political about Elon.
Yeah.
So I bought a bunch and doubled my money.
Nice. That was very smart. Yeah, and the same thing happened with the Doge stuff very, very early on. Stock got down into the low 200s. The thinking was that he was going to somehow hurt his brand. Now, that's the case, Mary, if you believe that the company actually sells EVs as a business, that their job is to sell cars. Their job is to sell their AI, is to license out their AI, to build out the Optimus program. No one's going to own a car probably in 20 years. You have the right to, right? But why own a car when you can have a robo-taxi pick you up for $3 and take you across town?
Because my Model S is sick.
It's a great freaking car.
It's the planned future for robocars. They made a video. There was a viral video about this like a decade ago.
Yeah.
Is that nobody owns a car. You think to yourself, we're going to go to a restaurant, and then you take your phone and you just hit the rideshare button, and then you walk outside, and literally within 2 minutes the car is there, because every car everywhere is automatic.
Yes.
There will never be traffic again, because as your car is about to enter the highway, it's communicating with the entire network of cars, and they all can adjust. They can accelerate and decelerate at the exact same time, and they can space out to make room for you to merge in perfectly, so it's seamless.
Yes.
One of the funny thing is that there was a MythBusters episode on traffic where they had a bunch of cars driving in a circle, and they created traffic jams, and it was unavoidable because at a certain you have a reaction time. So when the car in front of you stops, you stop. When they start, it takes you a second to start again. If all the cars are synchronized, they can all start at the same time and stop at the same time. Never be traffic again.
Yeah.
Never.
I think about how much time that's going to save people, right?
This sounds deeply unappealing, though, because it means that people are going to have less self-determination if their ability to get transportation is controlled by a corporation.
You mean when you say a naughty word and they ban you from driving?
Yeah, or who knows what else?
It's not debanking, it's de-driving.
Yep.
Yes, yeah.
So you're right, Mary. I mean, there's reason to be concerned about it. I think as long as you willingly partake in the system, now you should still be able to have the right to drive, of course. No one should be subjected to this Klaus Schwab, the year is 2030, you own nothing and you're very happy, right? But if you go out of your way, and like tell you, my grandmother, she passed in September, she didn't have a means to transport herself for the last 10 years of her life. She would have killed to be able to have a car pick her up and take her out. And I think a lot of people are like that as well, who want to have a better job, who want to earn a better wage, but don't have a means to get across town or even the next county over, Serge, and say, look, I want to be able to do that, and for $2, $3, I can do that on the Tesla Robotaxi network. Now, there's going to be competition. It won't just be one company. Google will be in it, Tesla will be in it, and others. But that's a really exciting future for a lot of people, I think, Phil.
I'm not particularly put off by AI or robotics or anything like that. I think that it's extremely exciting, and I think that it's gonna be obviously disruptive.
Yeah.
But I don't have like a doom and gloom outlook on it. I think that there will be benefits that significantly outweigh the cost and the negative factors. So.
Yeah.
Let's jump to this next story. We've got this viral video going around. Law enforcement in Florida is warning of extremely dangerous door kick challenge. Check this out. So there's a bunch of people that walk up to the door, ring camera.
With airsoft guns.
Yep.
So dumb. At night.
Guys, whenever I bring up social discohesion or whatever, people always go, this stuff always happens. It's been happening forever. It has never happened that rogue bands of teenagers took fake guns that sound, I don't want to say real, but to someone who doesn't know what's going on.
They look real.
Yeah.
They look real and they sound like something.
Sure.
And for the average untrained person, it has never existed that this kind of stuff was happening, and so frequently and so commonly.
Yeah, people will say, "Oh, well, everyone knows Ding Dong Ditch and et cetera." And I mean, even I have played that when I was a teenager, when I was a kid. But we weren't going with masks on, and we weren't going with toy guns trying to scare people, and we weren't doing it in Florida, right? Like
the worst state to do it in.
The location does matter. Like if you're doing that in Massachusetts, you will get one reaction from people. If you're doing that in Florida or in West Virginia or in any other of many red states, you will get a totally different reaction. And the results for the homeowner will not be as catastrophic, because even if they did, God forbid, they actually shot a kid, if the defense is, look, these kids were banging on my door and I saw them outside with a gun, even though they didn't know, even though it was airsoft,
nobody would get convicted for that.
It's likely that they would not be found guilty of homicide, you know, or it would be they would consider it justifiable. So don't do this. This is dumb.
Don't do it. It's like the YouTube pranks, Phil, where they pull out a little fake revolver.
Yeah.
Except it looks real. How would you know? And they try to rob somebody on the New York subway.
They're doing that?
Yeah, there's been videos of this done. Right? Mm-hmm. And one guy shot. What was that one prank in New York? He shot and he was acquitted, right? Because in that moment, there's no expectation that you can differentiate between an airsoft gun. Nope. It's not a toy gun, right? A Nerf gun is a toy gun. It's yellow and it's purple.
Yes,
and
it
matters. It looks like a real gun. And so it's going to end in tragedy. Sadly, probably one of those kids was going to have to get shot for this whole thing to end. I hate to say it,
but you don't even need a gun. There was the story out of the mall just down here. Which one was it? The Dullestown Center, where some YouTube prankster was getting in the face of some guy holding up a phone, so the dude drew his gun and shot him in the stomach.
Yes.
And when the kid ended up in the hospital, he came to his senses and told everyone he's gonna keep chasing his YouTube dreams.
Yep.
He doesn't care.
Good Lord.
Well,
And YouTube should have banned him.
they should have banned him. But remember, if you questioned the 2020 election on YouTube, you were literally banned.
Well, for a while it was that way. I mean,
That jury got acquitted. That was several years ago.
yeah. I mean, it's
That poor delivery driver, dude.
yeah. I mean, look, I can't.
Tanner Cook. That dude should be banned from all social media.
As a very pro Second Amendment guy that carries a gun and stuff, I cannot emphasize more strongly. Do not do this stuff.
Do not.
It is only going to end with bad things for everyone involved. Because even if you're the person that God forbid shoots a kid, your life is going to be hell for 2 years, and it's going to cost you
No winning.
$250,000 to $500,000 to defend yourself. You're going to have to.
It looks like this dude did quit YouTube.
I hope so.
Yeah.
Well, that's a positive update. I mean, no one who would do something like this would hear someone say "don't do it" and not do it. That's the problem. They don't think.
That's 100% right. I know.
They just act. They're just.
This is the social decay is all of these people who are desperate for attention. They want to be seen and they don't know how to be seen. And it's driven by these short algorithms, these TikTok, Instagram, YouTube algorithms. So they're just trying to figure out how to be crazier and crazier and crazier, like the people who go to Walmart and dump milk on their heads.
These kids weren't even filming and posting any of this. This was just for the sheer thrill of making someone think that they were about to get shot.
This is behavioral sync. Yeah. Idle hands, the devil's playground. When you are worried about winter coming and you starving to death, you don't do this.
No, well, if you have a father in the home, you don't do this either. Let's be honest. Let's be honest. If you have a two-parent household, if I would have pulled something like that,
I don't know. I think that Tanner Cook guy might have two parents. Like bad people do bad things sometimes. Well, I think we want to easily say two parents is an important thing. It is, but I think socially, regardless,
well, of course,
it's behavioral sync. Yeah, we are at the point where we don't struggle anymore, and so people are sitting around thinking, "What gets me attention?" Well, you know what got you attention back in the day? Doing something heroic.
Yep.
You guys know the story of the Iditarod? The people were dying, getting medicines. They were like, "We have no choice." And they're like, "You'll never make it. You're crazy. Those dogs can't make it that far." And then they did. Yeah. They did it because it was about saving lives. Now it's like, "Oh, well, just get a helicopter." Okay. Yeah, we got tons of them. We got too many, actually. Hey, we'll leave one there. And so people are sitting around being like, "Where's my great journey, adventure? How do I prove myself?" Well, the only way to do it on social media nowadays, not the only, but the fastest and easiest way, is to be a nut job.
Yeah.
There's a whole separate case of this in a different area in Florida with two teens caught on camera kicking in a neighbor's front door, and one hiding in an attic and the other admitting, "We were just being stupid."
Wow. Clearly.
They're all visibly black, by the way, and that should be noted because their levels of violent crime are absolutely out of control, and we need serious law enforcement response to it. It's outrageous.
Well, I mean, look, the idea that this is entertainment, that this is something fun. I understand your point. Like the people that are likely to do this are not going to be the people that are going to be listening to me or taking my advice. But this is so I just can't emphasize enough. Like, this is so dangerous and such a stupid idea. Just don't do this.
Don't do it.
And there's not really a whole.
I mean, they should be tried as adults and
absolutely.
probably locked up for life because
what is
the type
the
of
charge?
behavior you see early on in someone who ends up being a serial murderer.
Do we charge them with like aggravated? No. When you bring a fake gun to someone's house,
well, no, okay, so the fake gun is something entirely different. But
attempted murder.
Well, it's certainly attempted burglary, trying to break into someone's house.
Yeah.
Right.
I wonder what the charge is for. So in Illinois, it's interesting because assault is I forgot how they phrase it, but it's making someone believe they face an imminent threat.
Sure.
That means in Illinois, in New York, assault is actually touching someone and causing damage. If there's no damage or visible injury, they don't charge. In Illinois, assault would be flinching at you, walking up to you. Yep. And battery is when they make contact in a way that injures or embarrasses. So I'm curious, if Florida has a charge about what would you charge someone with if they point a gun at your head, right? Would you get attempted murder? Because you're making someone fear they're about to die, and that's what these guys are doing.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the actual statute would be, and I imagine that it would probably be different depending on which state you're in.
Sure. Well, let's put it this way. Right now, you should expand the reckless display of a firearm statute to include anything that a reasonable person would perceive to be a legitimate firearm, right? So, Serge, if you come up and you pull out an airsoft gun and try to rob someone and carjack them, we're going to charge that as if it's armed carjacking.
Yeah, absolutely.
End of story.
In Florida, it would be aggravated assault.
Would be.
If the victim reasonably believes the weapon is real, it will be felony to the 3rd degree, up to 5 years in prison.
Right. And in the meantime,
unless the AI is just hallucinating and making it all up, but it probably is.
Yeah, I mean, but look, I mean, Tim, you've mentioned this yourself. Like, kids that might do this kind of stuff, like, oftentimes they're looking to go to jail, or they'll go to jail and they'll only get, you know, they'll look at, okay, well, I'll get my street cred, and I'll come out and I'll have people that will look at me as if I'm a tough guy or whatever. So I mean,
that's why I'm saying,
like the 15-year-old and the 13-year-old were arrested facing felony burglary charges.
That's in Florida too.
13 is crazy.
That's why I've been saying,
in Florida,
you make them wear diapers and baby bonnets and march down a main thoroughfare while saying, "I'm a big baby boo-boo."
Oh, deputies said the girl's mother was furious after learning what her daughter had done. And you didn't know where your 13-year-old girl was in the middle of the night.
Yeah, 10:30, 10:24 p.m. on a Friday night.
It was a 15-yeard boy and a 13-year-old girl in DeBerry.
One of those
Florida.
commercials. It's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your kids are?
And there's a personal responsibility aspect to this as well. There's no question, right? But I mean, and you know, you touched on it, Mary. But there are obviously implications in particular racial subsets. When you don't have two parents in the household, you tend to see more reckless behavior. It's just the truth.
I've scrolled through every Ring camera video that is available. Literally every kid doing this is black.
Well,
and that should be talked about.
Well, you gotta be honest about it. And that probably has something to do with the fact that 70% of black kids growing up in America right now don't have a dad. And that's not because of marijuana laws.
I don't think that the dad issue is the reason why across the board we see all sorts of action like this.
No, I don't disagree with you on that at all. But what I would say is this, is that if you have a black kid who's got two parents and a black kid with just a mom, who is more likely to pull this crap?
The person without two parents. Right. But that being said, the trend of psychotic internet pranks is being done by literally everybody.
It elevates into the black culture.
Yeah.
It's unacceptable.
I don't disagree with you on all so here's the first thing I would say. You're looking at all the videos that have come out about it, and everyone doing it is black. But I'd like to actually see the reports, the actual hard data on who's doing it. I don't think you're wrong to bring it up. I'd say before we start taking enforcement action or looking into cultural and social issues as to what's going on, is it the videos we have are showing black people doing it, or is it statistically like we have the data that it is only black people doing it?
Well, it's the former, but we also have crime statistics to help us out here with context clues.
Don't bring up 1350, Mary.
But
and it's not even 1350 because it's actually mainly the males who are committing violent crimes.
So the question,
6%, really.
So the question then is, in what neighborhoods are they doing it? Are they doing it in their neighborhoods, or are they going to other neighborhoods?
No, because they would get shot in the neighborhoods if they did it.
I don't know.
Do
you know these neighborhoods? Like, would you
I don't know.
have
That doesn't look like.
But here's the other issue. If we're talking about general crime, the question is, this is a specific kind of weird crime that they don't get money from, and they're not filming.
It's what do you call it? Behavioral sync?
They're calling it a
Behavioral sync.
TikTok challenge, but I'm not seeing any of these kids holding phones up and recording it or posting it. I haven't seen any examples of that. It's literally all just Ring footage. So it's literally just for the sheer thrill of making someone believe that they're in danger for their life.
Yeah.
That's it. And who knows what would have happened if the homeowners tried to confront them and how it would have escalated.
Well, the homeowner would have argued to de-escalate.
It's not even about the homeowners either. It's sooner or later, someone's going to be walking down the street in Florida strapped, as they're allowed to, and they're going to see two guys wearing masks with guns go up to a house, and they're going to scream and draw their guns and say freeze, and those guys are going to start and they're going to get shot.
Yeah, well, that would solve that problem.
There's a.
I don't think it would.
I think it would seriously deter that kind of behavior. Yeah,
I don't think so.
This is suicide.
I don't think so because in Chicago it never has in 50 years.
I just put a link in the Slack about a 18-year-old Virginia high school senior died in a shooting early Saturday that may have resulted from a TikTok prank.
Wow.
That's
Was
the.
it the
This is back in May. We covered this back in May.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
Was it the May? Yeah. Okay, May 6th. All right.
What was the context there?
It's Ding Dong Ditch.
Oh.
Yeah, we covered this back when it happened. It was they were doing a ding dong ditch, and I think they arrested
3
the guy.
a.m.
Yeah, they arrested the guy, and we called it out like, what?
That makes sense.
Yep.
There's crazier stuff.
I wonder
than
what
that
happened to this guy.
That's more overtly suicidal, like the Subway Surfer challenge. Like they're trying to recreate the mobile game and run on top of trains in the subway system in New York. And I think at least one kid died.
Yeah.
You see, now look, I got to tell you that the kid who was doing the 3 a.m. ding dong ditch was white, and the homeowner who shot him was black.
Yeah.
And
Was it May?
this was back in May, and this homeowner should not have been charged. It is sickening that he was charged.
Withdrawn?
I don't know yet. This is from May, so
Yeah, I don't see it.
So okay.
I don't. Let me see if I can find the guy's name actually. Like you're at home, it's 3 in the morning.
Oh, I'm shooting.
And strange people are are doing something on your property. You know what? Now I don't know the full context, but apparently it wasn't a ding dong ditch. It was some other kind of prank. So it's been a while since we covered this story. So I need to look at pull it back up. They're saying they were reporting ding dong ditch pranks for TikTok videos, but there was something about it where it wasn't. It was like you try to open their door. You check to see if doors are open or something like that. It was something like that. Let me see if I can find it.
It's fine to like play pranks and stuff like that, but trying to enter people's houses or whatever.
But I guess
It was an attempted home burglary.
Yeah. Well, and I guess the question too, Tim, is this the convenient excuse when you're trying to charge a bunch of juveniles? No, it was just a joke when they were actually trying to break in to steal property. It was just a TikTok joke.
Yeah.
Right? Is that just the excuse afterwards to not charge us?
Yeah, and in the context that Tim's talking about, even if they weren't trying to steal anything, the fact that they were trying to open the door, that's attempted burglary. If you go through any barrier, Tim's mentioned it before because of the barriers that are set up around here. If you go through any barrier, that's burglary. You've committed the act of burglary just by entering in a place where you're not supposed to be. So the idea of trying to pull on a door, it's attempting to burglarize a house.
Correct. Or what if the next challenge is try to steal your kid in the mall? Like our goal is to go grab a toddler.
They're doing
and take
it.
him. Are they doing that too?
Yeah, the kids who survived said they were just doing a ding dong ditch, but the homeowner called 911 to report a burglary. So I don't believe a 3 a.m. ding dong ditch. I wouldn't be surprised if
It was actually a burglary.
So one of the pranks is you try and open doors,
right?
Because people leave their doors unlocked. There was one video out of the UK where they were entering homes that were open. You see that video?
Yeah.
You just walk up to a house and then go inside, and the people would be like, "Whoa, geez, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
Bro, if you're in West Virginia and you walk in the house, no one's gonna ask you what you're doing.
No.
They're gonna scream at the top of their lungs and point a rifle at your face.
Let me make it a race thing again, because the guy who was doing that was a streamer named, I think, Mizzy, and he ended up going on Piers Morgan's show to interview about what happened, and him literally jumping people, going in their houses, and he tells Piers, like, "You're racist.
Yeah.
You're criticizing me for committing crimes. That means you're racist, and you just hate black people."
I have
It's messed up.
a former police officer friend of mine just texted me, and he's like, they're training for home invasion, which is completely realistic to think, attempting to see what they, to see if they can get inside and where the line is drawn for that kind of behavior,
Yeah.
It's like car picking, just-
Yep.
Well, and just think about it.
They were at the sliding glass door of his house. It was not a prank.
It's not a prank.
This is
That was their
like the
excuse. We got
purge.
caught, so we're gonna cry TikTok, right?
This is why people are hiring Uber for personal security. Not Uber, but basically.
Oh yeah,
In
was it called
LA, right.
Protect
This
or
is
whatever.
what we're gonna get to the point where, like, you're gonna have the purge style home security systems
Sure.
that.
You mean like South
close in-
Africa?
Yes,
Yeah.
literally like South Africa, yeah.
Right, but like leveled up even more, like metal barrier over every entrance to your home overnight. Yep, and even interior.
There's no updates on this guy. That's dude.
That's messed up.
It's just a terrible idea, and it can only end in tragedy. Right? I mean,
For either, to your point, even if the person, Dude, to put the defendant through that, lose his job, lose his family.
They issued a statement. They said, our family is united in support of Tyler Chase Butler, who acted out of genuine fear for his safety and for the safety of his mother. Tyler found himself in an unimaginable situation, forced to protect his home and his loved ones in the early hours of the morning. We are aware of the profound loss experienced by the loved ones of the young man who lost his life. Our thoughts are with them during this difficult time. We urge the public and media to avoid speculation and allow the facts to be fully examined. Tyler is a young man who responded to an immediate threat, and we stand by him as the truth of the situation comes to light. This is a challenging time for our family, and we respectfully ask for privacy as we continue to support one another. I want to know what the details were, because apparently some details came out. People online are saying that they were at a sliding glass door. They weren't just doing a ding-dong ditch. There were 3 people. You don't go up to the house, ring the doorbell, and then stand there and wait for a guy to come to the door. They were doing something. I've heard some rumors that the prank that people were doing is they go to houses and try and open the doors and then see if they can get inside.
Wait, you can get shot for that.
Yeah, you'll die. West Virginia, man, is no joke.
By the way, it doesn't matter if you're black, white, Asian. If you do that in West Virginia, you're going to get shot.
Yeah.
West Virginia is one of the few states that allows you to defend open property. So in Maryland, if let's say in Maryland you have 10 acres of farmland or something, and someone crosses onto your property and screams that they intend to kill you, you are legally required to flee to your home. Once in your home, if they try entering your home, you're allowed to defend yourself. Lethal force. In New Jersey, you're never allowed to do it.
Yeah.
In West Virginia,
You have to run into Pennsylvania.
in West Virginia, if they enter your open property and are threatening you, you're allowed to defend yourself with lethal force. What that turns into is a lot of cases in West Virginia is the police are called, there's a dead guy, a living guy, and the living guy says, it's my property, and he threatened to kill me. End of story. There's no witnesses, and it doesn't matter. So the issue then becomes, you can't just kill anybody if they're on your property, because a lot of property is open. For instance, like we have a big open field and nobody's got, it's 50 plus acres, so there's no fencing around the other properties. Some do, and sometimes people will cross through ours. You can't just shoot them. Unfortunately for the people who do this without realizing it, if you die, there's no crime. The police are going to come to the homeowner and they're going to say, hey, threaten me. And the cop's going to say, okay. What are they going to do? It's your property. That person isn't supposed to be there, and you were threatened. End of story. Don't trespass. Be very careful. I've had people come out to West Virginia, and I can't remember where we were, but it's a big open field that was clearly private property, but like you could walk through it.
Yeah.
And I can't remember. It was like 2 years ago. They were like, let's just cross through here. I think we were somewhere near Berkeley Springs. I don't know. And I was like, nope. That's not a public thoroughfare. And they're like, yeah, but it's like, we're just going to cross it. No, we're going to drive around because you walk through that field and someone might be like, what are you doing on my property?
Yeah.
And then you say, I'm just trying to cry. No, you go back the way you came.
Yeah.
Yep.
The only option is have it right behind you.
Let's jump to this story, my friends. We got one more for you. Fox News, 1 year after Biden's unprecedented exit from 2024 race, Democrat poll numbers hit rock bottom. That's it, man. I don't know how the Democrats come back from this. You know, we were talking about South Park earlier, and it seems like they're going to try and be anti-woke edgy and mocking Trump, and they want to belittle Trump. They're trying to win back the podcast comedian circuit. They're trying to win back the Joe Rogan types. That's why they went for South Park. But I don't think Democrats can recover this unless they abandon gender ideology and critical race theory, which I don't think they can.
The more progressives have been trying to double down on that kind of stuff. I heard Ayanna Pressley talking about DEI and how DEI was extremely important. This is just today. I heard a clip of her talking about DEI and how it's super important, and that without DEI, we won't make any quote-unquote progress and stuff. The progressives are going to double down on it. The smart Democrats, like Fetterman, like Josh Shapiro, they seem to be moving away from this stuff.
Like Buttigieg, dare I say, not his biggest fan, but he can read a room a lot better than these Democrats can.
Yeah, and I don't think that Buttigieg has much of a chance, but it is a good point to point at him about this stuff. The smarter Democrats are moving away from this stuff because it's not popular with the American people overall. Again, this is something that's a small group of people are very passionate about it, but the rest of America's like, man, I don't even care. Like, I'm worried about, and I've said this a bunch of times, I'm worried about kitchen table issues.
Sure.
Is the economy good? Can I pay my bills?
Can I get a mortgage? Can I buy a new home?
After all the inflation that we've had, wages still have not caught up, and people seem to not understand that wages are a lagger and inflation is a leader. That's part of why there was such a massive wealth transfer. That's part of why there's such income inequality that people talk about. People that have money can get loans when there's 0% interest rates or 1% interest rates. Those people have businesses. The people that don't have money, the people that have that took the Biden bucks or the money that Donald Trump handed out, they take that money and they spend that money. Who are they buying things from? The people that have money. This is not super complex, but it takes a while for wages to catch up.
Exactly.
So,
For the same reason, it's the same reason why a lot of regulation, a huge corporation can easily absorb the costs of new regulation, and they use regulation and granting new regulation in the government in order to squeeze and destroy small businesses and medium-sized businesses, because they can't absorb just massive cost increases or regulatory increases, etc. They can't stomach that. They can't handle it. They'll just put it. It happens all the time. Happened in 2022. If you didn't see it happening in your own towns, you're lying to yourself. Like, it happened all the time. Happened in LA. I saw it happen personally. But yeah, you're exactly right.
And Serge, one of those regulations that's popular even amongst Republicans is what's called occupational licensing. I got my hair cut a couple weekends ago.
Crazy.
It's insane. 1,800 hours to become a barber? That benefits the supercuts and the hair cutteries of the world. Regulation is always the friend of big corporations. It is always the enemy of small businesses and entrepreneurs. Louisiana, Tim, it wasn't just until 2 years ago that in Louisiana, you needed a license to pay a fee and to pass a test to be a florist, to assemble the daisies and the tulips. But again, that was the big floral lobby.
But I mean, think about how hard it is. If you were just your run-of-the-mill old, biologist or scientist trying to take viruses from one animal and then contaminate other animals to force the virus to become more potent, you can't even do that in the United States.
You can't even do that.
You have to go to Wuhan, China to do something like that.
Correct.
Oh, can you believe this?
And then when you do it, blame it on the bat soup, because that's definitely not racist.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
But it's racist to say it came from a lab, and to come full circle, arrest Fauci. Arrest him. What are we waiting for?
Well, we were talking about regulation, and I made a joke, but now we're on Fauci. But anyway, to regulation, I think a lot of people don't realize how insane regulation really is.
Yeah.
And how some of it's good. I'd say most of it's bad.
Most of it's bad.
It is psychotic how insane regulations are.
Like, people don't know.
Like you can't put like lead in people's water.
I bet they do that anyway.
Some places do. There's pretty simple ones that we think some are good. We think some are bad. Like liberals don't like the regulation of marijuana. So if you're a business and you're going to be serving food to people and they say the content of rat feces in the food must be below a certain number, I'm actually okay with that.
Yeah.
But when they say in order to get certified to clear your restaurant of rat feces, you first have to go, we're only open once a month.
Correct.
You can come down with your paperwork. Unfortunately, if you make any mistake, let's come back next month.
Yep.
And then once you come in, we'll submit your files to the Rat Feces Assessment Bureau, who will then give them a few months to go through this. They'll get back to you. And then once you have that paperwork, you can then go to City Hall and file for your tax permit to get your certification, because it has to go through the tax office to get the final certification. And then once you have that, you can apply for the display permitting, which is required to open your business, which takes another 6 months. Thank you and have a nice day. Closed.
Yep. Worst part is that person also is earning a salary, and they're also getting all these benefits. They're going to have what's the word, like a stipend at the end of the year, or at the end of the service. I forget what it's called.
Basically, the issue we had with the building for our coffee shop was it's a historic building, so any changes have to go to the historic society once a month. And we were like, okay, well, that shouldn't matter because we don't have much to change, right? Well, unfortunately, the fire escape door that you have connects to the it connects into a back portion of the building with stairs, which now means that it's a single floor as far as occupancy goes, and that means you need access for the handicap to get to the second and third floors. And so we said, okay, we'll just close that door off and do a new door. Okay, well, you have to go to the historic department to alter the building to that degree. So we said, well, then we will, because we don't want anyone going to the second floor. And they said, okay. And then, unfortunately, the Historic Society said, first month, we're going to have to take a look at this and figure it out. The next month, You know, the dude who was supposed to be here to work with us on this isn't here next month. And it went on and on and on until we said, okay, can we just use the elevator in the building to qualify for the handicap requirements? And they said, well, actually, the elevator is a historic elevator, and it's not up to code because it's from 1908. And if you want to get it up to code, you got to go through the Historical Society. And so we said, okay. And then after basically like 2 years of all of this, we just sold the building.
Yeah.
Bye.
Think about the employees you could have employed there, wages they could have earned, the money they would have spent in their local community.
And the locals told us it was all the same thing. The people who are there and who have businesses, like, worked full-time for years to get final approval. Martinsburg is now saying we're going to relax a lot of this, probably because I've been complaining about it. People are mad at me. But we are still partnering on the shop, so we don't own it anymore, but there will be a shop. So
that's awesome.
That's exciting.
What are you going to call it?
Casper Cup. We have a bunch on the way. I can't speak too much, but this stuff takes forever. There's like, if you want to start a franchise company, it's like a year of federal regulation before you're allowed to do anything. It's psychotic. I don't think it's an accident. I think the U.S. government intentionally uses regulation to stifle business on purpose.
Agreed.
I think that the government's attitude is we don't want we don't want too much growth, and I'd imagine the argument is if we grow too rapidly, we can create a period of instability where if we can't sustain that growth, we can retract too rapidly. So let's sludge everything up so we can make sure it only grows a little bit over time. I think they do it to, I think they won't tell you this. They'll constantly talk about how they want to hit good numbers, but they want to slog up the system intentionally.
Well, they want growth, but they don't want high volatility growth. They don't want GDP of 10%, then GDP of -9,
That's the point.
GDP of 20. Then
so they want to control it.
Right.
Federal Reserve, they want to control the flow of money. They want to control population. So, you know what happens to any species when they reach the maximum point of resource distribution? They become sickly and starve. So if you take a look at the deer population in our area, last year, the deer were all starving. Because people weren't hunting them, you ended up with this massive deer population. They ate all the food, and then although they had this massive population, they were all sickly and starving. So the idea is if humanity grows to the point where we strain all of our resources, we reach parity with resource, we all become angry, sickly, and starving. Because there's enough to get to that population. So powers that be in the U.S. government are like, no, we should always make sure growth can't exceed a certain amount of excess. So they will restrict you intentionally, and I believe they use regulations for that on purpose.
Yep, they definitely do it because businesses want them to do it too, because they want to get rid of their competition. You know, I was going to say, when I got my haircut in college, I got my haircut from a roommate who lived down the hall, and he charged $8. The barber shop charged $60 that was down the street. And so, of course, you want to create a regulation that says that guy is going to charge $8, has to go through 1,800 hours of barber training and all sorts of nonsense.
I want to do a quick review for the Fast and the Furious, for the Fantastic Four.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know why I said that. It's because
natural alliteration with the F.
Well, no, it's because I like that movie better.
Okay.
I'm a huge
You don't
fan.
like this one, do you?
Oh, this was one of the worst movies I've ever seen. It is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. Pedro Pascal was the worst casting choice imaginable. It is the most miserable acting I've ever seen. I like Pedro Pascal in a lot of stuff.
I didn't really.
And they overuse him. So I'm not going to spoil the film for you. It's mostly spoiled already because there's no story. The movie is a 2-hour-long trailer, and what I mean by that is, when you watch the trailer and it jumps from plot to plot, like because they're not trying to tell you the full story.
Right.
That's 2 hours of this. So without spoiling, I'll give you an example. The movie starts with a montage explaining who they are. The next scene is a minute of them being like, we're having a baby. I'm not spoiling, that's actually in the trailer. Then it's a montage of superhero nonsense, unrelated plot points. Then you get a scene where, in the trailer, like, I'll put it this way, everything of the movie that you've seen in the movie is the trailer. What you saw in the trailer is the movie, there's something else. They can have a nice day. Shia LaBeouf arrives. That's the name of the Silver Surfer, which is again in the trailer. She says, I herald his beginning. I herald your end. I herald Galactus. And then they go, oh man, montage. Basically, every time something happens, you get a voiceover showing a bunch of stuff happening in a time shift. There's probably 20 or 30 voiceover montages stringing the movie together because there's no actual movie. Reed Richards never uses he uses his power one time at the end. The Thing uses his powers one time at the end. Human Torch uses his powers quite a bit. Sue Storm does quite a bit, but usually for just like I'm being a woman moments. So like, I don't want to spoil plot points, but basically mostly when you see her use her powers, it's because of some like she's embarrassed about something or angry and she turns invisible, like not actually fighting. And then a good example is basically it's like Galactus is coming, what do we do? And Reed's like, I don't know. And then all of a sudden it goes, the Fantastic Four did a bunch of stuff and things happen. And then it shows them getting on a spaceship. And they're like, let's go faster than light. Then they go faster than light. And it's like, okay. Then they're at Galactus. Again, this is all in the trailers. Then Galactus is like, I'm evil. And they go, ah, run. And like, I'm like, why? What's happening? Why is any of this going on? And then they go back to Earth and they're like, we are going to die. And everyone's like, why? And it's like, I don't know. And I was like, okay. And then they're like, how do we stop Galactus? And then he's like, I have a plan. And then they have a plan that makes no sense and has nothing to do with the movie. And then it time skips and it goes, all of the nations of the world had a plan for Galactus. And then the Silver Surfer fights and it doesn't make sense. Then Johnny is like, I don't want to get too spoilery, but he like is talking to the Silver Surfer for some reason, which has no impact on the plot. And then at the end, they never defeat Galactus. And the movie ends, and you don't really know what happened or why. And
There's
then
a sequel coming up, you think? They set it up.
Yes.
Well,
and then there's an after-credit scene in which you see a green cloak, and that's it.
So the Green Cloak part, the Reed Richards is supposed to be the new leader of the new Avengers, and the Green Cloak is Doctor Doom, who's played by Robert Downey Jr. If this is a flop, if this movie doesn't go, I don't see how they're going to have Pedro Pascal.
Well, it's getting great reviews.
Is it getting great reviews?
Yeah.
Sorry, this is part of MCU?
Yes, but they're in a standalone universe, Universe 828, which is Jack Kirby's birthday, I guess.
But it's the...
That's what they did at the end of the movie.
Is this Marvel Studios, though?
Yes.
And they put together that crap?
This is, like, I'd love to spoil it to a certain degree, but the easy way I could explain it is that, you know, like, in a lot of movies, like Fast and the Furious is a good example. Dom is washing his car, and then, like, The Rock pulls up and he goes, Dom, a super spy has stolen a submarine. And he's like, we're on it. And you're like, oh, okay, a thing happened. And then he gets in the car. Then he goes to the airport. Then he gets on a plane. Then he meets with the CIA and Mr. Nobody. And Mr. Nobody's like, we're going to use you, Dom, to stop this bad guy. And you're like following a chain of events. This movie was a thing happens, and then a voiceover montage explains something else happens, and then a thing happens. Like, why did they go to outer space? None of it makes sense. There's no story whatsoever. Okay, I'm gonna partially spoil this because it's the key plot element from the comics, which is already well known and is already on all the forums. Galactus wants their baby. They don't explain why. It makes literally no sense, and it's just like Galactus is like, I will have your baby. There's only one point in the film that I really liked, and it was just one line from Vanessa Kirby when Galactus is trying to take the baby, and Silver Surfer is there. She goes, Johnny, kill her! And I was like, wow, that was awesome. That's the only thing I liked in the whole movie, when Sue Storm orders Johnny Storm to kill the Silver Surfer, because I'm like, you don't get that in the superhero movies from Marvel. Like the superhero saying, like the way she said, kill her, and then he actually shoots her in the face. I was like, all right, okay. It doesn't do anything to her, but
Is that the only redeeming scene, you think?
It's because she's like, the only thing redeeming about the film is that one point where she's like, I have a baby and I will kill you if you touch it. The rest of the film is just
pronatalism.
It's so bad. It's so insanely bad.
Anything woke?
No, it's just really bad. I don't know. Guys.
We're starting to remember that we used to have like movies that were just bad.
Yeah. This is Daredevil, Ben Affleck bad.
Oh wow, okay, that's
a little bit worse actually. I wanted to walk out. No joke.
You did not leave. You watched
I did not leave.
I didn't catch your thoughts on Superman.
I liked it.
You liked Superman?
Yeah, Superman, I give like a B. I think it was a generic Superman story, and if you like Superman and the Lex stuff, it was very basic. Wasn't woke, wasn't political, wasn't about immigration. It was literally Lex being Lex and being like, Superman! And
I mean, James Gunn said it was an immigrant story, so I don't know.
But that was they baited him into it.
I know, but it's like, shouldn't you be smarter than that by now?
Yeah.
Born yesterday.
This movie, okay, let me just stress this again. It's not a superhero movie at all. There's no superhero stuff in it. The only superhero stuff is the opening montage where they're like, it opens with a fake TV show documentary about the Fantastic Four to prep the audience for who they are. And then the whole movie is like, there's a weird plot element where, dude, this is the creepiest thing. The Thing, like, is walking down the street for some reason and then meets a school teacher briefly and then leaves and then is in love with her for the rest of the movie. Makes no sense.
Was Pedro Pascal believably heterosexual?
No. He was awful. He was really bad. And again,
Was it fruit?
well, I don't know about that, but he's not Reed Richards. And it was poorly done. Like, it was like watching, I can't even, Ben Affleck's Daredevil was better than this. Like when he's fighting Elektra, at least something is happening. He talked like this the whole time. I was like, what is he doing?
He's also in Eddington, which is at the moment.
He doesn't. They don't use their powers ever. I'm like, when will Mr. Fantastic actually be fantastic? Dr. Doom is not in it. The end credit scene makes literally no sense because Sue Storm does like a lightsaber thing with her powers. It's like, why is she doing? What is this? What?
Yeah.
Like Sue's powers, she makes force fields, and then at the end, when they're doing the end credit scene, she's like walking into the living room, and then she goes with her hand, and then you see a green cloak, and it just ends. And like, we get it, you're stupid.
You don't see Robert Downey Jr.'s face because they can't pay for that.
They could have just used a scene from Doomsday they've already shot with Robert Downey Jr.
They're in the middle of shooting it. It's supposed to come out in December next year, and that's after a delay. It was supposed to come out next spring, and they're currently in the process of writing it while filming it.
And they don't have
They're not done writing it, and they're filming it.
It's bad. And the second after credit scene is a waste of your time. Don't even bother watching it. It's not.
I can't believe people even. Like, that's just terrifying that, like, you can brainwash people into sitting there past the credits twice.
You know what's remarkable to me is you can just look at what they did with Iron Man, Hulk, Captain America, Thor, and understand why it worked and how the MCU is working. You make a standalone movie about the character. It is an origin film. And then at the end, the after credit scene promos the next movie. They then realized with Guardians of the Galaxy, they were like, hey, James Gunn recently did an interview where he said, I was like, can we just say other things in the movies are Infinity Stones? And they were like, oh, okay. And so we have these after credit scenes. We can now combine them and do the Infinity Gauntlet thing. And they had all these standalone movies and they brought them together. Now every single movie is just like, the end credit scene is fan service. That doesn't mean anything for any other movie. They're not previewing anything. But I just gotta say, I want to walk out. There's only, it's. I would argue that it's worse than Last Jedi.
Really?
Yeah.
Bad.
Was it Last Jedi? Yeah. Last Jedi was where Holdo did the Holdo maneuver, and it was like, what was it, Admiral Gender Studies?
Yep.
Like the thing about that,
The whole second act was completely and totally unnecessary. They went to the casino planet, and they were just crapping on capitalism and rich people.
I gave this a 3 out of 10. I think that's probably being generous. The reason, so the thing about Last Jedi is that Snoke dies, but there's a story that you're following. This movie has no story. It's nothing.
Did you find the commentator thing believable though? The very end.
No, that was Rise of Skywalker.
That was Rise of Skywalker,
which is also really bad.
Jedi was
This is worse than both of them.
Okay.
Yeah. I can't believe how bad it was. Just
I love killing Snoke is a good scene though.
It made no sense, and it kind of ruined it. But to be fair, the sequel movies were garbage anyway. That made no sense. So whatever. But I don't recommend this film. I recommend you wait till it comes out if you truly want to see it. It's not a Fantastic Four movie. Johnny doesn't even burn his clothes. Like one of the things about Johnny Storm is that he's on fire. Nope, not in this movie.
Let me try.
Like he picks people up. They're not burned.
What?
Yeah.
While he's on fire, yes.
Yeah. Nah, he's on fire. He's like carrying kids around and saving people. But there's no real superhero stuff. Yeah, it's so bad. It's remarkably bad. They did Galactus dirty. They did Galactus real dirty. Man. Galactus in the movie is like, I'd put his IQ at 73.
Oh wow, room temperature.
Yeah.
Did you watch Thunderbolts?
Yes.
Why do you keep going back to the MCU like a battered housewife? Like, why do you keep expecting it to be good?
Well, we also saw Superman, and it's because depending on the films we go see them. The ones we didn't see was Final Reckoning, which I wanted to see. I'll see that when it comes out on video. But I go see big movies that are culturally relevant, and expected to be significant. With Doomsday coming out, this is supposed to. Okay, so in the end of Thunderbolts, the Fantastic Four ship breaks into the MCU. Not in the movie at all. Nothing. And everyone's going, but the ship in that movie has three nacelles, and in the Fantastic Four trailer it's got 4. So what is this ship? And then people are showing like the chalkboard in Fantastic Four where you can see diagrams of wormholes, and they're like, whoa, Reed Richards develops interdimensional travel, and this is what's going to lead to. Nope, none of that never happens. The movie was miserable. I thought what was going to happen is Galactus is going to destroy the planet, and again, this is in the trailers. So in the trailers, Galactus wants their child, and he refuses to give them up. What I thought was going to happen is Dr. Doom was going to be in the film, Robert Downey Jr., and he was going to say, you have to give up your child, don't destroy our Earth. And I thought the movie was going to end with Galactus destroying the planet, and Dr. Doom chasing after him, being like, you let our entire planet die for yourselves, and then try escaping to another Earth where you could live out your lives. I thought that would be his motivation. Nope. Nope. Anyway, we're going to read your chats. Smash the like button, share the show with everyone you know. Rumble.com/TimCastIRL for the uncensored call-in show coming up at 10. If you'd like to call in, become a member of our Discord at timcast.com. But for the time being, let's just read what you guys have to say in the old chats. Shane H. Wilder says, do we think anything is going to come of the DOJ strike force investigation of Obama? Or is it going to be a case of, as Mary would say, nothing ever happens, which is to say that nothing ever changes? Yes, Mary's correct.
I'm glad everyone's coming around. Feels good.
I don't know if I actually would give that 100%, because Trump got arrested and nobody believed that could happen.
Nobody believed.
So there's a possibility, especially if the argument is Trump is in the Epstein files and he's becoming desperate, then wouldn't the liberal argument be that Trump will do anything to prevent the release, including a mass distraction of the arrest of Obama?
Maybe. I'm not. I don't have a lot of faith that Obama will get arrested, but I do think that it's more likely that someone like Clapper or Brennan might see some kind of ramifications, but I don't know what, and I don't think that it's going to be jail time.
I believed it was just a rhetorical distraction. I don't see Obama getting arrested in our future.
Matt Taibbi seems to believe that there's a lot of there, and Matt Taibbi's not particularly partisan. You know, he's not a guy that was, would be a Trump cheerleader. So,
right.
But yeah, I'm still of the opinion that because there's no specific statute that they can point to that was broken or violated, the Republicans don't have the gumption to do, like Tim was mentioning earlier, and actually create something. Which, I mean, if you believe that what's good for the goose is good for the gander, they absolutely should. But
no one's above the law, right?
No one's above the law.
Obama said it. Every single Democrat said it. If he committed a crime, he should be charged and convicted. It's that simple.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the crime is.
Yeah.
What the statute is. And
Well, the FBI could always call him in and have him just interrogate him for 8 hours, and he'll lie to a federal agent at some point. There's a statute for that.
Love to see it.
You know.
I don't know that it will, but I'd love to see it.
Let's grab this. We got Jay Huigi. Please read, I need help. I've had 5 lung collapses in 1.5 years. Surgery is in September, but can't afford it. Asking listeners to help. No Give, Send, Go, but Cash App is Jennifer Huigi. Please help. Love the show, y'all. Best of luck. That's Huighe. Sorry to hear about it. All right. Guardian says California Kaiser Insurance is not covering sex changes anymore. But how many kids are going to die?
0.
Oh. Okay. Well, I'm not mad anymore. I identify as tax exempt, says the new South Park is a fine example of the difference between forced and organic creativity. I think I gotta call Seamus and be like, can we do a parody of the South Park parody where we actually make fun of Trump in a way that's funny that people will get?
Do it with AI. It's really easy. Make music with it, right?
Well, Seamus he does this every week.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah, we just make one. All right, Shane Wilder says, Matt and Trey aren't stupid. When you're given $1.5 billion to mock Trump, you'll do it, even if it's the entire team of a 12-year-old boy. Even if it tanks, they will. You know, it's easy for me to say that I wouldn't do it, because, you know, we're successful here, I've got money or whatever, but I think, man, $1.5 billion? I think I'd have to do it. You know what I mean? Because with $1.5 billion, seriously, $10 million can fund a massive newsroom, which would greatly benefit this country and, you know, in a positive way.
I'd run it into the ground, I'm sure. The show, because I have no idea how to make a South Park comedy, but yeah.
But he had a better sketch with some of that stuff with the files and going down into the basement. That was
Tim's got an incredible imagination.
Mecca Epstein.
Yeah.
Or just Epstein's alive.
Yeah.
And then they could have made Epstein, like, and Trump friends. And then, you know, like, that's the whole play in the press, that they were buddies. And then Trump says, no one can find out that I smuggled Epstein out of the jail and I'm keeping him alive. Or something like this. I don't know. There's tons of things to make fun of him.
Waving the binder would have been cute, too.
Right. Yeah, having Stan, Colin Cartman, like, holding up the binders and I'm saying
Going to look for the Epstein files in Pam on her desk, where she said they were.
Uh-huh. And her desk is a mess.
Yeah.
And
her
then
desk is a bunch of makeup and lipstick and Fox News scripts, right?
Yeah, Fox
That'd be hilarious.
Yep. Yeah. Or her desk is just he goes into her office and her desk is literally just a makeup desk. There's no files at all.
Yeah, it's just a giant mirror.
All she's doing is just pruning herself.
They weren't even trying. The funny thing is, like, even Trump supporters would laugh at that. What if Matt and Trey were like, we like Trump, so we're going to take the money and then just do a really bad job?
Yeah.
All right. What else do we got here? Crash Bandit says, show me the list, then show me the bank records. Then let us figure it out for ourselves. Is that too much to ask? Indeed. Al Smith says, South Park could easily make a bromance breakup saga with Elon and Trump. Town can be mad about milk and eggs and solve it on their own. Easy 30 million, please. I mean, look, if they're going to keep doing this, where they keep making fun of Trump, they did it with Garrison, now they're doing Trump directly, conveniently after being given $300 million a year. There's so much stuff to make fun of that's not tiny penis.
Yes.
And full frontal. It's like, maybe the idea was if they show the full frontal, nobody would want to watch it.
Well, they also mock him for his weight, too. We didn't talk about that either. They made this giant, fat Trump guy.
I can't play the video on YouTube.
I know.
Because they have a morbidly obese, 300-pound Donald Trump fully nude and crawling through the desert, and then he looks down at his dick for 30 seconds.
Just listening to you talk about it is funnier than the actual.
Yeah, think about that.
Yeah.
Think about that.
But the joke here is how pathetic it is. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
when you actually watch it, you're like wincing the whole time, like, wow, I want to see this. Like, Trump gets naked and then goes, come on, Satan. And Satan's like, it's too small. And he goes, hey, I'll sue you. It's like, we get it. He said, I'm Hussein. This is the joke you did in 2003 or whatever. They should, CBS should give Seamus $1.5 billion.
I agree.
Yeah. All right, Identifies Tactics M says that's not the first Ring video from the porch. It was in another one a few months ago, but I don't remember the context. I recognize the architecture in the background. Fox 463 says I'm in the hospital with my wife and baby boy 3. Please welcome Luke Thomas Fox. Right on. Congratulations. The one thing that I liked about that only the one scene of Fantastic Four is when, so basically, again, it's in the trailer. Reed Richards is like, he wants my child, but I won't give it up. That's literally the trailer. So when Sue Storm is like, kill her, it was the only actual believable acting in the whole movie, where I was like,
It's because she's pregnant in real life, that's why.
she is? Oh, really? Was she pregnant when she was acting?
I believe she was pregnant for some of the scenes.
Maybe some of them.
Yeah.
It's pretty remarkable how, like, it's such a pathetically bad plot. The plot is they have to give their son to Galactus, otherwise the Earth is destroyed. And it's like,
Someone we know is actually staying at the same hotel as Pedro and Vanessa Kirby at the moment, and there are rumors flying that they've got some sort of thing going on, and I'm like, who's gonna tell her?
Pedro Pascal is the worst choice for Reed Richards. What were they thinking?
And for pretty
I assume they tried to make what's her face Brie Larson, the next Robert Downey Jr. and that was stupid. they're probably thinking we need the lead guy who's going to replace Robert Downey Jr. And the reason they chose Pedro Pascal for Reed Richards is because Pedro Pascal is so big in Hollywood right now, and they thought we're going to get the big name to be the lead, who can carry the franchise after our Robert Downey Jr. But he's not it. He's not it.
Mentioned the question of like why Galactus wants the child.
I know why.
What is?
In the movie, it makes no sense.
What's their reason in the movie?
Okay, spoiler alert. He says, the only thing he says is, he has the power cosmic and can feed and satiate my eternal hunger.
Okay, so...
In the comics, I understand why he wants Franklin Richards. In the movie, it makes no sense. And it's like, Galactus is going to destroy the Earth, then only because they went to Galactus does he find out about Franklin Richards and then tries extracting it from her body.
The child has the ability to create universes.
That's the comic.
Okay.
And Galactus wants his universe back.
And none of that is explained.
No.
In the movie.
In the movie, he simply says he basically says he will inherit my throne and end my insatiable hunger. It's stupid. It was pathetic. It would have actually been good if they followed the comics and he said, my universe was destroyed and now I am this thing. Your son can bring back my universe. They could have done so much clever stuff that it was just miserably bad. Ugh. It was bad. Anyway, I'd love to spoil more because of how bad the ending was. Like, the ending is so bad. It's just ridiculously bad. I wanted to leave so bad. All right. One Evil Chef says, update for Culture War. The fat electrician is coaching angry cops on how to beat arguments about communism and anarchy from Michael Malice. Though if you open the invitation, Nick, the fat electrician, would probably make it more entertaining. Oh, if he wants to come, sure. Absolutely. Who are we getting? Getting this quick? Sean? You got it? All right. Absolutely. Donnie Rock says, Tim, turtles need skateboards. Ask the ninja ones. Well, little turtles, they put them on a fingerboard and then they slide it, across the ground. Yeah. Wicked Freebird says, Tim, please read this in the Hulk Hogan voice. Well, rest in peace, Hulk Hogan. People are saying it always comes in threes, but haven't we had 5 deaths now? Yeah. Chuck Mangione died, right? Yeah. I can't do a Hulk Hogan voice. I got to be honest, though. I did just see him. I think I saw him in December when I was at UFC. He didn't look good. He was having a hard time walking. If he was walking a little bit better, I would have tried to meet him, but I didn't want to bother him because he seemed ill.
Yeah, there was a video of him like yesterday saying he was really tired. He'd been flying between the coasts and so whatever, and then apparently that was one of the last videos you put on the internet. But yeah,
his heart stopped. Trump thinks that your body is like a battery, and if you work out too much, you'll die earlier because you're draining your energy.
Donald Trump is wrong.
He's wrong. So I knew this dude who was morbidly obese once, and I said something like, a candle that burns twice as bright lasts half as long, and then he was like, whoa, really? And I was like, it's a saying. And he was like, oh, yeah. Like, he was thinking, wow, by being lazy and overweight, I'm saving my... That's not what I was saying, dude. That's not what I was saying at all. And so people have asked this question, if your heart has only a certain amount of beats till you die, wouldn't exercising with a really high heart rate make you die faster? And the answer is no, because a fit heart beats less. So when you exercise, you increase your heart rate and do diminish a certain number of beats, but then for the rest of the week, your heart is beating very slow. I don't know if I should be alarmed by this, but like 3 days ago, my resting heart rate was 38.
Nice.
Is that good?
That's very good.
It's getting really low.
Very low.
Yeah.
Very low.
What is it supposed to be?
The average person, I think, is 60.
The average, but then the ideal is
40.
40. Okay.
Yeah, that means you're fit. And so 40 was normal for most of humanity, for men, because they were always working and being fit. Now it's like getting upwards of 80, which is crazy because people are fat.
Right now, it's AI says the average resting heartbeat for adults is typically between 60 and 100 BPM.
Jeez.
However, a healthy resting heartbeat for most adults falls between 55 and 85, with the lower end of this range being more favorable for highly trained athletes. The resting heartbeat can be as low as 40 BPM due to increased cardiovascular efficiency.
Being fat is hard.
Yesterday I was 46, and it gave me a warning because it's above 45 and it's atypical for me. Wednesday was 41, 44. And then I got pretty worried because it was like 40. Yeah. There was this funny thing online where everybody was posting their watches showing their resting heart rates. Yeah. And they were like, look at mine. I'm fit. I'm in shape.
The Michael Malice and Angry Cops is on the 2nd, correct?
Yes.
Just want to make sure.
And we've got, I think for Gavin McInnes and Matan Evan, we have Pisco, the liberal lawyer, who'll be joining us. And if you guys know anything about Pisco in his last appearance, you are going to very much enjoy him versus Gavin McInnes. This is going to be very, very funny. I don't know what Matan's going to do. I imagine it'll be very funny as well. But this Saturday, DC, and then do you guys know if we have the after party set up, or is that set up? It's supposed to be like 100 people only, Timcast members. Yeah, it's going to be fun. Let's grab one more of these here. What do we got from these Super Chits? Ledlaw says, South Park bit. Trump refuses to release the Epstein files because there's a picture of Trump bald in them, and they try to find it, but then figure out that Trump's toupee is an alien that was controlling Epstein the whole time. I mean, honestly, that's better than what they did.
Not particularly funny, but it's way better than what they did.
It actually would be funny if the Epstein files has... It was like Epstein at a party that Trump was at, and Trump's fake hair fell off, and that's the only reason he doesn't want it released, and they find out. And then Trump complains that if people find out that his hair isn't real, it'll ruin his chances in the midterms. They could have made fun of him for any one of these things.
I know.
Instead, they were like,
a picture of Trump in a T-shirt. You can't. You can't even visualize it, really.
I don't think
Trump's... polo, though.
Polo a lot.
Do you think Trump has ever walked a mile?
Links.
Yeah. Wait, what?
Do you think Trump has ever walked a mile?
Probably not.
Yes.
Sure, yeah.
Golfing.
The golf carts.
I'd be willing to bet that Trump...
Continuous mile?
Yeah, continuous mile, straight.
It's probably hard.
Because people have debated this before because he's been wealthy his whole life. And so he probably walks out of a building in New York and gets right into a car.
Sure.
But of course he's walked a mile. I mean, how's it possible that he didn't?
Well, he has. It's just a question of when's the last time he did it.
Right.
Last 10 years?
No.
Miles straight.
Mm-hmm. Walking through New York, maybe?
He stays at a svelte 220 pounds.
That's right, a svelte. All right, everybody, smash that like button. Share the show with everyone you know. We're going to go to rumble.com/TimcastIRL for the uncensored call-in portion of the show. You don't want to miss it. You can follow me on X and Instagram at Timcast. James, you want to shout anything out?
Yeah, so we just launched our anti-DEI ETF, SPXM. It's available anywhere you buy stocks. As I mentioned earlier, Phil, it's a way to buy the S&P 500 minus the 38 companies, Nike, Starbucks, Airbnb, and Intel, that are doubling down on DEI hiring quotas that are stupid, but also hurt your portfolio. So we're proud to launch SPXM. And we sued the Fed today.
Oh, yeah?
That's cool.
Sued the Federal Reserve in federal court today. I just got on the way over here. I learned that we have a hearing first thing Monday morning. We sued them, Mary, because they are hiding behind this weird exemption that says they don't have to actually conduct their business in public. Every other federal agency, FTC, FCC, CFTC, is required to conduct official business with public observation. The Fed doesn't do that. They have a meeting next week. Phil, they've been, as President Trump has said, too late. They're refusing to lower rates from 20-year highs. So we sued them in federal court this morning. Azoria v. Powell is the lawsuit, and we're suing them to make clear that next week's meeting, to demand that next week's meeting happen in public view.
I have a question that I'll ask you after when we get to the uncensored part. So
sure.
All right, you guys can go subscribe to Pop Culture Crisis on YouTube and also Rumble, and we go live every Monday through Friday at 3 p.m. Eastern. You can send me validation on Instagram at Mary Archived, or you can send me hate on X. That is also Mary Archived, and help me get TikTok famous. That is also Mary Archived.
I am Phil That Remains on Twix. The band is All That Remains. You can follow the band on Apple Music, Amazon Music, Pandora, Spotify, YouTube, and Deezer. Don't forget, the left lane is for crime.
We will see you all over at rumble.com/TimcastIRL in about 30 seconds. Thanks for hanging out.
Aliens land outside an American airbase in Suffolk 45 years ago to probe its secret stash of nuclear warheads. Or is the story a fisherman's tale that just gets bigger every time it's told? Clearly, something unusual happened in the early hours of Boxing Day morning in Rendlesham Forest near the twin RAF bases of Bentwaters and Woodbridge that's still being talked about today. Some claim the latter NATO base was visited by UFOs, leading to a meet and greet with silver-suited aliens and American top military brass that was caught on film. Others, as the Mail can exclusively reveal, are convinced the Christmas visitors were interested in a secret nuclear missile stockpile stashed just a few miles from Ipswich, where the good people of Suffolk were obliviously sleeping off their Christmas indulgences. What everyone agrees on, however, is that the full story has never been disclosed until now. A new feature-length documentary, 8 years in the making, reignited the decades-old Rendlesham Forest UFO mystery when it premiered last week. Called Capel Green after a field situated between the RAF Woodbridge Airfield and the medieval Butley Priory in Suffolk, where the story is set, it recreates the action seen through the eyes of a U.S. airman who claims he witnessed it. As a keen ufologist who has closely followed the Rendlesham story for decades, I fear the truth won't be the close encounters tale everyone craves, but rather yet another example of the British and American governments using UFO conspiracy stories as a convenient cloak for their nefarious top-secret activities at the height of the Cold War, as confirmed last month in a bombshell report published by the Wall Street Journal. We are referencing the story we've talked about weeks ago, Pentagon getting caught creating extraterrestrial stories as a cover for Lockheed Martin technology being taken for joyrides in the sky, allegedly. I continue. Yet that will be cold comfort for those Suffolk residents who in 1980 had no idea how close they were sleeping to the weapons of Armageddon that Christmas night. The Capel Green film includes interviews with U.S. security police, some of whom have never spoken on camera before, plus a newly recruited U.S. airman, Larry Warren, just 19 at the time, who claims he had a front row seat to the whole happening. In the film, he describes how he was told to hand over his rifle and driven in a jeep to a clearing in the forest that was covered in a glowing mist. It was then, he says, that he saw a basketball-sized red light in the sky, followed by a blinding flash of light. It was then he saw a triangular-shaped machine object or craft on the ground, and most astonishingly of all, 3 non-human beings emerging from it. These beings, he said, were then greeted by a tall man he believed was the most senior officer at the NATO complex, U.S. Air Force Wing Commander, later Brigadier General Gordon Williams. According to Warren, footage of this incredible meeting was captured on film. The footage handed to the pilot of a F-15 jet and later flown to the U.S. Air Force HQ in Germany, never to be seen again, which is all very intriguing and understandably greeted with a huge amount of skepticism, like it is in this room right now. Because I love this story, but it's hard to think about this without the word sham in the entire title, Rendlesham. But who knows? This is one of the weirder UFO stories out there that's been floating around for years. It's kind of like the Roswell in the UK. Wing Commander Gordon Williams, it should be noted, has never publicly commented on Rendlesham, but in 2003 described Warren's claims as a flight of fancy. Whatever happened, the incident wasn't a one-off, and UFOs were seen around the base for at least 3 nights. On December 28, 1980, the deputy base commander, Lieutenant Colonel Charles Halt, led a team of airmen into the forest to investigate his colleague's strange report. As Halt made a running commentary of events on his handheld tape recorder, his men gasped as they spotted a pulsing red light that resembled a winking eye between the trees. Later, 3 star-like lights in the sky were seen low in the north and south, hovering until daybreak. This is why I was staring at the sky earlier. Halt claims one of these projected a pencil-thin beam of light into the weapons storage area of nearby RAF Bentwaters, like it was looking for something. That's a quote. In the film, U.S. security policeman Sergeant Steve Langero, who was assigned to protect the nuclear warheads at the Suffolk base, also claims to have seen a beam of light scanning the whole of the weapons storage area. Charles Holt's memo summarizing the Rendlesham sightings was sent to the British Ministry of Defense in January 1981 and became one of the most famous documents in the history of ufology when it was leaked to the media. As a teenage UFO enthusiast, this is the journalist writing, I clearly recall being gripped by the headline, UFO lands in Suffolk, and that's official. And you can see we have the old newspaper article clipping showing that. Imagine seeing that in the morning. And that broke the Rendlesham Forest story in October 1983. To many ufologists, the Rendlesham incident offered the exciting possibility of a British Roswell right on our doorstep. Roswell, okay, we don't have to read that, guys. I don't want to take too much with this story, but I want to swerve with this to something else I think is interesting. But just a bit more. For those who want to believe, Rendlesham appeared to have everything Roswell had. Impressive military witnesses, official documentation, and what appeared to be a determined government attempt at a cover-up. As an investigative journalist seeking answers, I used the precursor to UK's Freedom of Information Act to persuade the MOD, Ministry of Defense, to release their own 150-page file on the case in 2001. Sadly, I found no smoking gun, although I did find a letter written by then Defense Minister Michael Heseltine shortly after the story broke, giving unequivocal assurance that there is not a grain of truth to in the allegation that there has been a cover-up about alleged UFO sightings. But remember, this was the 80s and the height of the Cold War, where truth could be subjective. The Soviet Union had invaded Afghanistan a year earlier and tensions were high in Eastern Europe. Not so many miles away at Greenham Common in Berkshire, the first tents were being pitched in a protest camp outside another American airbase where cruise missiles were being stored. The protests would go on. I will skip this. So basically, they mentioned someone we talked about on this show a bit. Last summer, U.S. intelligence officer turned UFO whistleblower Luis Elizondo claimed in his explosive book, Imminent, that the Rendlesham incident was indeed linked to the secret stockpile of nuclear weapons at nearby RAF Bentwaters, now a Cold War museum. He said the beam described by multiple witnesses had hovered specifically over an underground bunker where the stash was held. He said the visit triggered a flash override that gave U.S. President Jimmy Carter direct control of weapons in the event of a surprise attack. So I want to just pivot here. So it's like the headline's like brand new information. There's not a ton here except for the things we get through the FOIA. But what's interesting to me, first of all, Jimmy Carter's being mentioned. For those who haven't heard me talk about that before, Jimmy Carter was one of the few presidents who spoke openly while campaigning for governor of Georgia about wanting UFO disclosure. He had seen a UFO in Georgia. I believe it was above was it Knights of Columbus? Some sort of building. And he saw an orb floating above the tree line. And it bothered him and everyone in that parking lot. So he started saying, I want disclosure. And when he became president, he never stopped talking about it. When he became president, this is all lore. There's nothing to confirm this, so take it with a grain of salt. The story goes, he went to Bush, this is old Bush, and who was running the CIA at the time, and said, let's release all the UFO stuff, and said no. There are lots of reports out there about that incident. It's hard to know what's true and what's not. Some of those reports say Carter was like stupefied by the response from Bush. Like it wasn't just like a simple no. It was like a absolutely not, and like a berating the president on you should never talk about it again. And Carter never did talk about it again until after his failed presidency. He wrote a lot of poetry, and in some of that poetry he discusses aliens, and he's also he wrote a letter to the aliens in the Golden Voyager.
Welcome on in. Listen, I just woke up about an hour ago and I got linked to this website, which is, I think, the old, Song of the Welkin Moon event, where we got a lot of information about Nod Cry, and it kind of updated over time, right? But people told me that there's now new things to this, and it got updated again, which I can't say I'm entirely surprised about, since we got the latest Song of the Welkin Moon teaser, prequel kind of thing. But I have no idea what this actually is, so let's take a quick look. Oh, this is just the trailer. Wait, did I get... Oh no, okay, there is more. Let me click down and take a look at this with you. What the hell is this? Is this the map? Wait. Interesting. Okay. Wait, can we click these? What is this? Paha Isle. where the Fatui assemble. Interesting. Okay, so we're getting a bit of world, like pre-world building, I guess. What is this? Oh, this is just another image. Wait, I want to zoom in on this. See, this area looks pretty cool. I'm assuming there is more. Maybe this is going to kind of be like Inazuma, where each island gets released as we go through the expansion. I doubt we're going to get everything all at once, because there's obviously going to be... Oh, wow, there is a lot more than this. Okay, let's take a quick look. So this is the Fatui. The Fatui are going to be one of the biggest plot points in Not Cry, in my opinion. I think it's very obvious at this point, with Columbina being the Moon Maiden, Dottore being there, Piero possibly being there. We're not 100% sure yet. And then, obviously, we have Hex and Zircon members. And Sandrone, Jesus Christ, I forgot about Sandrone. That is obviously going to be a huge part to play in this. Let's take a look at this one, though. Oh my god, okay. Wait, oh, this is probably going to go through all the factions then. Let's take a look. This is the Blue Amber Lake. This looks very much like a whale. This reminds me a lot of kind of Fontaine architecture, weirdly. Blue Amber Lake, interesting. And then this is... Oh, this is the thing that we also saw in the teaser. It's like the tree. This definitely looks like it could be some kind of morphed ley line that's coming above the ground, kind of protruding through. Exciting stuff. I need more information on this before I can get like super excited about it, but so far things look promising. Can I just say as well, dude, the music for Not Cry so far is absolute 10 out of 10. If there's one thing Hoyoverse never ever miss with, it is the music. It's the OSTs in their content. I love the kind of Celtic vibes of this. It reminds me of a lot of the stuff reminds me of something you'd hear if you went to like a tavern back in the medieval ages. You know, the instruments, the way the music's played, it is absolutely incredible. Let's take a look at this. Nasha Town. This is correct me if I'm wrong. I think this is where the Clink Clank from Kake Workshop is. This whole thing reminds me of Zorn. Am I even saying that right? From Arcane, the Underworld? I don't know if that is Zorn. I think it is. Nasha Town, Elysium of Revelry for Explorers. Interesting. What is the... Oh, there is no extra thing here for Nasha Town. What is this one then? Lempo Isle. Cool. Okay. I'm trying to, like... see if there's any kind of hidden details here, but it really doesn't look like there's too many hidden details. I do like the... I don't even know the correct word for this. I was going to say steampunk, but it's not even steampunk. It's kind of like everything's just kind of be shoved together and created on a whim out of like leftover steel and stuff. I like this kind of vibe, especially with Not Cry. I feel like it kind of... We don't know exactly what this nation is meant to be quote-unquote representing, right? Obviously different nations take a lot of inspiration from other cultures in the real world. We have a lot of European influence in Mondstadt. We have obviously China and Japan for Liwa Inazuma. France, Fontaine, and a couple of other places as well. Sumeru with a lot of Middle Eastern influence. Natlan with South American and a lot of other places as well. Not Cry, if I remember correctly, in the behind-the-scenes live stream that they did for Not Cry, they did say that it's the first time they're kind of doing this, where they're taking inspiration from themselves and not necessarily a bunch of different places. Maybe I misheard that, but I think that's what they said. It's kind of going to be like a conglomerate of tons of different things, and it's not really going to be honing in on one aspect in particular, which I think would be very interesting. This looks pretty cool. Emoji is going to be some kind of store, more than likely, for the Lempo Isle. Alright, and then we have the final area, which hopefully my camera... Also, the blue and red here kind of makes me think of the moons. The Crimson Moon and the Frost Moon, right? Or the Frost Moon and the Crimson Moon. And in the latest teaser, the Song of the Welkin Moon one, Columbina, I feel like, does very much mirror Arlecchino in a sense with the moons. And by the end of the teaser, where Columbina was saying some shit about the fucking moons and everything, the way that everything changed color from the like blue iridescent glow to the red really did make me think a lot about the frost moons and the crimson moons, just the different moons in general. Maybe the Welkin moon as well, but we'll have to see about that. Let's see this place. Oh, the Hisi Island, remnants of the moonlit world. This is probably, if I had to guess, even though it looks quite barren, I think this is likely going to be either where the information overload starts in Not Cry, but I think it'll also be one of the most lore-heavy places on the continent, to be honest. And then we have the beautiful Dia. Yeah, I have a feeling, obviously, Nordcry isn't, I was kind of confused by this, and I think a lot of people might have been. I heard during the behind the scenes and a couple of other things that Nordcry was never intended to be in the game, and they kind of put it in the game so that the plot lines can converge and tie up loose ends. Now, I had a comment on Twitter, and it kind of reassured me a little bit, because although that is the case, I think Nordcry was always supposed to be in the game. It just wasn't supposed to be like this. I think they restructured a lot of things, and a lot of the characters that we're now seeing were meant to show up later in the game, but that just wasn't going to work with the timeline that Hoyoverse planned for Genshin. So bringing it forward and making these factions converge at an earlier point in the story is only going to aid Snezhnaya, Khaimera, and future things going forward, I would assume. Oh, what is this? Wait, TH and LA. TH and LA. I don't know about TH, but LA, didn't we have... Wait, am I crazy? Is there no Los Angeles here, bro? Never mind. No, I thought there was something with those... Oh! I just have to keep scrolling. The moon-enveloped land. The moonlit land where those drawn in by various powers wage bitter wars without end. So Paha Isle, where the Fatui assemble, we get the cool... Oh my god, there's so much information here, dude. What the hell? Let me scroll on this first. Hisi Island, remnants of the moonlit world. Nasha Town, Elysium of Revelry. These look very cool. Okay, this one just doesn't even show, so let's go through this one. Alright, I'll move my camera just a tad so that we can actually read through this stuff briefly, because this is probably going to give a lot of insight onto where we are going to be going in Nordcry. These are also little videos, so we get to see a little bit more information, like this monorail here. Under the ancient moonlight, the Pale Star Banner casts a shadow as vast and solemn as the Northern Lands. In the newly established Kuvaki Experimental Design Bureau, countless mechanisms churn and whir all hours of night and day. What rebellious designs does the Forgehammer's dull thunder conceal? Even their own soldiers standing ignorance, blind as the anvil. And we see Piero here, baby. Look at this. Okay, let's take a quick scroll here. Wait, is this like multiple images as well? Hold on. Oh my goodness, dude. Who is it? Oh, Columbina, Piero, and Sandrone. Jesus Christ, dude. Oh, what is... Hey! The forces of Snezhnaya encroach like the winter, and the Fatui sergeants rise aloft the flags of their harbingers. What is it they seek? Look at this, dude. The idol of the new moon. Okay. Wow. Okay. So Columbina is the idol of the new moon. Carved by the scions of the far north, now lies caged in a prison of steel. Do they wish to harness its power, or simply display Snezhnaya's unparalleled dominance? Oh, interesting. Okay. This looks sick. This looks twisted on a whole other... Oh, it's like a statue with a 7, dude. Oh, interesting. Okay, I kind of dig that. Not going to dwell on this for too long. I'm sure other people are going to do deep dives onto this that we can watch eventually, but I do want to take a brief look. Hisi Islands, the remnants of the far north still dwell among the ashen woods and tundras. Their golden city has long since turned to ash, their distant ancestral homeland consumed by the court of creation, yet these proud descendants light primordial lanterns against the pitch darkness of a withering tide, spinning distant ancient hymns, praying for the new moon's protection. Bro, if Columbina is the new moon, would she even... Oh, God. Do you think they're going to make Columbina like a redemption arc, like typical playable characters, where they dude. To be fair, we don't really know too much about Columbina herself. Did she just freaking elope from the Harbin? Oh God, there's so much information that's... it has to happen either in this latest Song of the Welkin Moon or Conquest, or during Nordcry, obviously, right? Oh my God, this doesn't even look finished. There looks to be more unless this continues. This looks incredible, dude. Oh my God. Jesus, look at this. Bro, I said for the longest time, if the moons are created by the dragons, or the sovereigns even, could the moons just be eggs? Could the moons just be eggs floating in the sky? For 5 centuries, generations of moon chanters have followed the commandments left by the first leader of the Frost Moon Scions, guiding their devotees to uphold benevolence and faith, striving to avoid conflict with outsiders at all costs. Yet with the arrival of the Fatui, the Scions' long-held tranquility and their endless supplications to their goddess may now give way to creeping twilight gloom. Okay. We obviously have Nasha Town here. This is probably going to be the main hub, I would assume, when we get to Nod Cry. No matter where you're from, no matter where you stand in society, and no matter how much more you have to your name, this is a paradise, or an paradise, I guess. Apologize, please. For those whose hearts are filled with hope, riches, lies, schemes, and sincerity surge beneath the same quilt of raucous laughter. As Nod Cry's most prosperous trading port, the first lesson newcomers learn here is always the same. Keep your Mora close to your chest. Oh, we're gonna have pickpockets, bro. We're gonna maybe the new character that was shown in the latest preview, the young girl-looking character, could have something to do with this. I feel like she kind of fits that vibe design-wise. You wish to buy a weapon? Absolutely. This here is Nod Cry's second best forge. Why second best, you ask? Well, if you meet Aino, I'm sure it'll be pretty clear. You can buy anything you want here, as long as you can pay the price. I hear you're looking for some extraordinary treasure, bro. Dories would have a field day here, bro. Then you've come to the right person. My friends and helpers in these lands are numerous indeed. This shop is interesting. It does have the, maybe not the pale star, but the 8-pointed star, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yep. And then something in the middle that's like a nut or a bolt. And Astra Abby, want to learn more about the latest commission? If you really want something worth the risk, you'll need a little luck on your side. Do we think Catherine's going to be the same Catherine that we usually see? Or do we think it's going to be something to do with Sandrone and maybe a little bit of a buffed Catherine, you know? Who is this kid? Just a little warning, the grown-ups here are sneaky and love ripping off passing adventurers. You want to know if kids can be trusted? Well, you'll just have to find out, won't you? Interesting. The presence of the abyss grows. The pitch-dark, withering tide whispers amidst the silence of frigid nights, awaiting its moment to... Bro, if any playable character has to say this line, I hope the S's are fixed. Jesus. Whispering amidst the silence of frigid nights. Awaiting its moment to rend the ever-thinning veil and devour those frail souls whole. In the shadow where rules cannot reach, even death is no respite from torment. In the shadow where rules cannot reach... Interesting. Maybe the heavenly principles like vision doesn't reach that far, kind of like the where the Hexen Circle abide, right? And then we do have a general about. Oh my God, that image! Oh God! In the age where the 7 lights of the firmament have not yet shone upon the land, the now nameless ruler raised the heavenly moons. What? To govern the cyclical tides of the world in their stead. Cyclical tides, huh? The remnants that failed to become a moon slumbered in the vast sea, only to become at last the refuge of the exiles of the far north. Neither the withering tide of darkness nor the mad monk who spoke in strange tongues could break this land's spine. Yet now, beneath the new moon, calamity stirs once more to drown the world in its maw. Brother, Columbina be looking absolutely goated. Can we keep it a buck? What? Oh, interesting. Okay, very interesting. I don't really know what that means, but if it even means anything, it probably doesn't, to be fair. But that is very cool. She looks awesome, dude. She really does. The different moon aesthetics on her outfit as well. Oh, she looks so good. She gives me Kogabe vibes as well, weirdly. I guess it kind of makes sense. And then what is this? Developer sharing. Gee, I need a drink, guys. Hold up. Coca-Cola, 0, though. No sugar. You know how it is. The new moon has risen and the wheel of fate begins to turn. Journey with the Genshin Impact dev team to learn more about the behind-the-scenes story of Nod Cry's creation and the new Song of the Welcome Moon series. Developer wallpaper. Rewards for in-game. Oh, I'll log in for that in a sec. Yeah, bro, this whole place looks absolutely incredible. We can download the wallpapers here. That's also quite nice, to be fair. Although, to be honest, this one is by far the best, right? Hold on. I can't even click the last one, man. There we go. It just looks so good. I think that's it. I think that's everything that this now has to offer. I think it's updated fully, I would assume. I doubt we're going to get any more since... Well, actually, I guess we do have a whole patch to wait. I would argue the summer event and next story quest is going to be kind of a prequel to Nod Cry. But let me know down in the comments if you're excited for the following nation. And I know a lot of returning players are coming back. That's kind of evident based on Twitter's response to this, which was basically just shitting on Natlan. Because I think a lot of the people that quit as Natlan was kind of approaching its climax are now coming back for Nod Cry. And I can't really blame people for coming back, bro. This whole patch looks like it is going to be peak Genshin. I'm excited for the future of this. I'm looking forward to seeing where the storytelling goes, since I do expect drastic improvements with Nod Cry. Hopefully we get some pod quality of life as well. But the character designs, if not anything else, the character designs and the trailers and everything, absolutely amazing at the minute. I gotta give props where props are heavily due. And yeah, like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. We are covering a lot more lately than just Genshin. And it's been an absolute blast. So I appreciate your support. Thank you very much. And I will catch you all in the next video, guys.
We've ever gotten. Columbina is not the Fatui harbinger of Nod Cry. Sandrone is. Columbina is Nod Cry's archon or god, deity. Yes, let me repeat that. We won. We won. She is the god of Nod Cry.
My first girlfriend turned into the moon. That's rough, buddy.
Did Columbina betray the Fatui? She has no reflection in the water. She's glitching out. She has her own statue of the Seven. She is the archon of Nod Cry. So statue of the Eight, I guess, or 7+1. So much we didn't know about the Moon Sisters, now we're learning. This is not going to be a super long video, but we got no time to waste. So first things first, the Pale Star Edict is sent to retrieve the damselet, Columbina. Retrieve her from Nod Cry, bring her back to Snezhnaya on the orders of the Tsaritsa. Why? From the Winter Lazo trailer, we can clearly see she's still part of the Fatui, willingly. We know that she's a Moon Maiden now and very vocal to Nod Cry, but up until like not even a year ago, we didn't even know what Nod Cry was or it existed. She comes off as appearing uncaring and oblivious to her surroundings no matter the situation. She's implied to be extremely dangerous and sinister from both Tartaglia and the Wanderer, where Arlecchino then states that if she was to properly answer a question, it could be entirely unpredictable. And like Nahida said, she's among the top 3 harbingers that rank in the level of godhood. Well, it looks like she probably is a god in her own right. Going by her aesthetic, she looks like she was always from Celestia in some shape or form. There are many angels that used to live in Celestia that qualify on this level outside the 4 shades. Nabu, the goddess of flowers in Sumeru, to be one, the Lord of Night in Natlan, to name a few. And finally, I've been saying this for years and people always doubt me, this was her talking to Iltadore at the end of the Winter Lazo trailer. We got more voice lines from her, it's undeniable now, so she had a working relationship with the Fatui, so why are they trying to retrieve her? That's one big question that I want to talk about.
In the water, the future mirrors the past. The veil of lies is slipping. You're looking very young today, Doctor.
You know very well that I do not take that as a compliment.
So, where's the segment in the prime of his life, then?
He's busy with a little experiment in blasphemy.
But in order to understand that better, we gotta talk about what she is and what she is to the people of Nod Cry, because just from these short clips we got, she is the centerpiece of Nod Cry. Everyone worships her, she is the one. Not just the statues, but it looks like they're actually worshipping her in the trailer. And much like Arlecchino that can use the powers of the Crimson Moon, both powerful ancient dynasties, the Crimson and Eclipse dynasties from Conria, both harnessed moon powers. We will talk about that in a second, but Columbina's glitching out. It seems like she can use the power of the moon, obviously. And not just her powers, but look at the landscape. It looks like all of Nod Cry kind of functions through Columbina and then through the moon. Almost like she can control the entire environment, which is crazier than I could have predicted. And there's a very big reason I think she's glitching and her reflection is not in the water. And this so-called rise of the new moon is more than likely going to be Columbina, because the Frost Moon Scions that worship Columbina and the Frost Moon, not only have they made multiple statues of Columbina obviously, but they call her Idols of the New Moon. So she is more than likely going to be the new moon referenced. There's two very subtle lines in the trailer that paint a bigger picture here.
In that era, there was no boundary between life and death. Willpower flowed freely among countless beings. The primordial being that once ruled this planet made 3 moons rise from the earth. In the water, the future mirrors the past. The veil of lives is slipping. Time is short. The moon's fall is nigh.
Talking about ancient times, the original primordial being, aka Nibelung, the dragons lived here first, and something we never expected is it looks like Nibelung might have been the creator of the 3 moons, born from the ground and rose into the sky. The original primordial being. They state in the trailer there was no boundary between life and death, and that willpower flowed freely. This goes perfectly in line with Skirk's artifact set, talking about this mysterious outlander from beyond Teyvat, this voyager that came and met Nibelung before the heavenly principles and the 4 shades were here. Before such strict rules, sin of knowledge, a very prison-like world that the current Teyvat is like now. But this also means that the 3 moon sisters themselves predate the heavenly principles and the 4 shades. The 4 shades are like the apex gods in Teyvat besides the heavenly principles themselves. It seems like the 3 moon sisters are like the 4 shades of Nibelung. It's the equivalent. Columbina then states herself, "In the water, the future mirrors the past. The veil of lies is slipping." We just had Skirk, a complete outlander to Teyvat, in her story quest not long ago. She's constantly making remarks of the false sky and the fake stars, the fake Stella Fortuna. Do you remember back in 1.1, all those years ago, the Unreconciled Stars event? The stars, the sky, it's one big hoax, a lie. Mona's able to read people's memories and actual fates in the stars. Teyvat is very coded, like a giant computer database. This collective hive mind on how it functions on the heavenly principles' orders. And the 4 shades uphold that. It is pretty obvious now that the moons don't function in the current Teyvat, hence Arlecchino glitching and now Columbina. She also has no reflection. It seems to me like they don't belong here. But that's the entire point, right? They want to overthrow Celestia, take control. That's the Harbinger's goal. But then why are they looking for Columbina? Are they not aligned right now? Arya, Sonnet, and Canon were collectively known as the 3 moons, or the 3 moon sisters, that lived in the lunar palace in the heavens, known as the incandescent moon, the eternal moon, and the frost moon. Following a giant certain calamity, 2 of the sisters died, and the corpse of only one can be seen today, probably the shattered moon that we saw in Natlan, whereas a fake moon is now put up there in the new false sky. It also states that once the heavenly principles overthrew the 7 sovereigns in Nibelung, the moon sisters were put under their control, and the 3 moon sisters were in love with the morning stars, and that their love for the morning stars was equal to the affection between sisters. At some point, the moon sisters witnessed a union between the first angel and this voyager from beyond Teyvat. 30 days later, the calamity that overturned the heavens and the earth descended on the world. Nibelung turned with a vengeance and the abyss, thus beginning the new era of Teyvat. It seems more than likely to me this is the big lie that Columbina is referring to. But it also said that the Frost Moon, one of the 3 moons, was still alive but dormant. It did not do its job anymore, it did not luminate. Now, do I believe Columbina to be the Frost Moon or an avatar of the Frost Moon? It's not impossible, but no. What we actually learned in that quick teaser, The Song of the Welkin Moon, is that the remains of the 3 moon sisters are going to give rise to a new moon that's spinning the wheel of fate anew. Remember how I always talk about the moons are connected to fate in Teyvat? Everyone's fate and memories is collected through Irminsul and the skies, the stars. Everyone's literal lives' fates, if they gain a vision or not, it's all predetermined. But it's going to be set ablaze. It's going to change forever, hence why so many big major characters are in Nodcry. This is such an important chapter because it's going to change how Teyvat literally functions. The veil of lies is fading away like she says. The Heavenly Principle's grip is slipping. They've had to fight 2 world-ending calamities involved with the Abyss twice, the Cataclysm and the Big War of Vengeance when Nibelung returned. Also, the 4 shades are weakened because they're missing one. Asmodee, the Shade of Space, the Sustainer of Heavenly Principles. We just learned that, another big trailer recently. If a brand new moon is created in Nodcry, it doesn't completely release the shackles of everyone in Teyvat, but it loosens the grip. Also, if we go by this teaser and Nibelung created the 3 moons, the 3 moon sisters then are Nibelung's equivalent to the 4 shades, but Nibelung in every single depiction of himself back in the day when he ruled is known as a very benevolent, chill dude. Knowledge, freedom, everything is free-flowing. He literally had the live, love, laugh, let things be as they may motto. A random person from outside Teyvat, this voyager, came to this random unknown world, thought it was a pretty nice place. He returned. People are getting punished for sin of knowledge. Look at Egeria and her curse for giving Oceanids humanity. Look at Orobashi. He just read a book and learned something. He didn't even do anything. Sentenced to death. Concepts like time, space, life, and death make up the known universe. And the Heavenly Principles wanted such a death grip on Teyvat that they actually created angels representing those concepts to control them. Having complete control of them, that even people like Egeria that give Oceanids humanity to be benevolent and kind to them, it's wrong, you get punished. It's crazy. But why this makes it even crazier talking about all that is because Nodcry signifies the change. The lies are being unwoven before our very eyes. It's honestly quite amazing that they had this entire story mapped out for years now. We knew Natlan was going to be right before Nodcry, before we even knew Nodcry was a thing. Natlan's the nation of dragons. It's not a coincidence that the Dragon Nation had the moon fracture in it, in its
Don't know what book it is,
The
bruh.
dragons were a very advanced technological race of smart beings, even created spaceships to explore outside Teyvat. And now we're learning they created the moons. So all the major factions trying to weaponize the power of the moons, aka the power of the dragons, Conria, the Fatui Harbingers, all the dragon references and Easter eggs in both Conria and the Fatui, and then Natlan being our previous chapter learning more about the dragons, it's not a coincidence. In 5.8, they actually mentioned in the live stream about pulling the moon shards down. If the moons are connected to the dragons, then Columbina is also connected to the dragons. It's like Piero said back in the Winter Lazo trailer, seize authority from the gods. Signora, your final resting place will be that of the old world. Like mentioned in the trailer, a world where ambition and desires flowed freely. When the Heavenly Principles took over the moons, they took over everyone's fate, technically in Teyvat. Does that mean Columbina is an amalgamation of all 3 moon sisters, the fragments, all created into one avatar to become the new moon of Teyvat that the Fatui then can control? It's possible. Also, I've had theories for so many years now that Columbina's 3rd ranking was misleading based on what we know of her, people's dialogue, and it seems like I could be right. The fact that she has her own statue of the 7, sort of, is as close as I'll ever be to being right without it being confirmed. It was obviously wishful thinking, obviously I'm biased, she's my favorite Harbinger, but hey, here we are. She's got her own statue, I never saw that coming. But it also seems to me like she wasn't at full power. The Fatui might be trying to control her, but the closer she gets to being complete or a full moon herself, she might gain more free will. I did state this in many videos as well, that the Fatui might be controlling or sedating her in a way. Hence why she seems so odd to everyone. And now they want to retrieve her. But
I will tell you, the headlines that keep saying, like, it's the best Marvel project in years, it's the best thing I've ever seen in my life, actually. This is what my eyes were made for. This is why the Lord gave us eyes, so we can watch the new Fantastic Four movie and really appreciate it. Like, this absurd level of glaze, not exactly accurate. Like, it is a good movie. I did enjoy it. But I feel like we're just in this era, and it's something... Voice crack. I just had a voice crack. I'm about to go on a rant, and my voice is like, Charles, don't. It's too early, but I can't help myself. We're just in this era where anytime something good comes out, it immediately has to be heralded like it's the best thing to come out. Like, it's not just comic book movies, but comic book movies are by far the biggest culprit, where pretty much every time a new Marvel movie comes out, people are like, it's the best Marvel movie in years. Like, we just saw these exact headlines with Thunderbolts. So I'm pretty tired of that trend here, and for a lot of people, I think it's a big turnoff from the film, because then it just feels fake. And I'm not going to keep yapping about it. I've yapped about it quite a bit. Anyway, Fantastic Four, First Steps. It's a very solid movie. I was somewhat excited for this one. I had a little bit of doubt after a couple of the trailers came out, especially in regards to Reed Richards. I thought a little bit of that looked goofy, and it felt like some of the CGI was incomplete in the first trailer. But after seeing the film, it's very clear that it was just kind of incomplete in those trailers, because it's so much better here. Like, I was one of those people that was bah-humbugging the Silver Surfer CGI from the trailer and the early promotional stuff, saying that it didn't look that good. In the actual final cut here of the film, it looks a lot better. Significantly better. Anyway, though, let's dive in. This is a film truly focused on family. It is a self-contained plot. You don't need any prerequisite knowledge of the MCU. You don't have to do any of your homework watching fucking 30 movies and 30 shows just to figure out who over there they're hyping up, the glup shitto that just, smoked a neutron star cigarette. Like, who is this guy? Why should we care? You don't need any of that. You come into here and you get all the information you need. This is 4 years after the Fantastic Four got their powers, and they explain all of that to you. Now they're beloved on Earth, and they're about to deal with their most difficult threat yet, Galactus. One of my favorite villains in comic books. I'm not the biggest comic book reader, but I've always had a soft spot for Galactus. I think he is so fucking cool. And with Galactus comes the Silver Surfer, and the Silver Surfer in this film is one that I've never heard of, I was completely unaware of, named Shala Bal. And it really felt like they wanted to do something with Shala Bal and then completely abandoned it, so what ends up being the case is that they start a plot line with her and Johnny that goes nowhere. And then, like, in a desperate attempt to, like, flesh her out, they give you a scene, like a 10-second scene, and then she's not really seen again till the very end. I'm trying to avoid spoilers right now, but in like a minute or two I'm going to give you the spoilers like I really like to do for reviews now. So for now, I'll just go ahead and leave you with, it felt like the Silver Surfer was underutilized and kind of half-baked with where they were going with the character, but of course it is still an important character. Scouts planets for Galactus, and in this film, he's coming. Oh, he's coming. The Silver Surfer warns Earth, and they prep to fight Galactus and try and come up with a plan for how they can survive this, all while Sue is about to give birth to their baby, Franklin. That's the story in a nutshell, and it's actually a really good story, like all about family. I think each member of the Fantastic Four is pretty strong here, especially Ben. I think Ben was an absolute joy in every scene that he was in, and he was in a lot of scenes. Granted, he didn't get a lot of, like, one-on-one time. You got to see him, like, showing off for, kids that wanted to see him pick up a car and stuff like that in order to entertain them. But you don't get anything, like, super emotional with his story and how he's dealing with being a fucking rock now. Which I do think makes sense, because this isn't an origin story, per se. In fact, I would say I even prefer it. I just would have liked more Ben, because they did such a good job with the thing here, I thought. They did a good job with pretty much all of the characters for the Fantastic Four. Johnny, I was very surprised with how much I liked Johnny here. That's a pretty difficult task to take a quippy character like Human Torch and make them not annoying and cringe in this era where everyone is so fatigued with comic book quips. Like, there is nothing that makes eyes roll faster than constantly joking characters in a comic book movie now, because it has become so generic and formulaic, people are tired of it. And it's a delicate balancing act with Johnny, but they do a good job, because he's not always making snide remarks and being joking or like douchey or something. He is still mainly just like focused on protecting his family, but he just happens to have like some good back and forth jokes with Ben or Reed, and it works pretty well overall. Also, they make his powers look much better in the actual final cut of this film than they looked in the trailers, so that's good. And as far as the core cast go, he's really like the only one that actively uses his powers a lot. For the majority of this film, you will not see the Fantastic Four doing a whole lot with their powers, at least not until like the very end, except for Johnny, who is using it pretty frequently to talk with and chase the Silver Surfer. But I'll get into that in a moment. Sue, I also think they did a good job with. She is a protective mother. She protects her whole family and wants to protect the world. And she is, of course, a very smart character that is extremely powerful. And then there's Reed. This one was going to be tough for a lot of people because a lot of people, myself included, are tired of seeing Pedro Pascal in everything. He has basically had a role in like every major production now. Every hour he's getting announced for a new project as like a lead role. So a lot of people are a little overseeing him and everything, but man can act. He's good in the role. Like, I'm sure there were probably better choices for Reed, but overall he does a good job. I will say he's a little too pouty sometimes for the character he's supposed to be. Like, I do think there were times where he could have been a little less, like, whiny's not the right word, because he's never whiny, and it is very emotional because he is desperate because it's such a hard problem to solve. How do you survive when you need Galactus? But, like, he gets sometimes in this fugue state almost where he's like, and it's like, that can be a little much sometimes because then he just gets like really stoic and a little pouty about it. But I do think he does a really good job for the most part. So now it's time to cannonball into the deep end of the pool here and really give you my thorough thoughts here, which of course gets us into spoilers. Here's your spoiler warning per usual. Spoiler warning is now over. This movie has a lot that I liked about it, actually. So my favorite scene, my favorite sequence is absolutely when they first meet Galactus. So after the Silver Surfer arrives on Earth, tells him Galactus is coming, he's gonna fuck your face. Like, he wants this planet, he is going to devour you. So enjoy the last moments you guys have got. Alright, bye-bye. And then Silver Surfer leaves. Well, they track and find her, and that's when they meet Galactus. Now, I think it's also very important that I mention, and I'm sure you've seen it in the trailers, the vibe of this film, the style, is so fucking good with the retro sci-fi aesthetic. It is amazing. I absolutely love the look of everything here. Like, the technology is all, like, very retro, very Jetsons-like, and it hits. I thought it was so good, but you need to suspend disbelief a little bit with the level of technology they have here. So I mentioned that they don't really use their powers much, because they don't need to, because their technology is so unfathomably advanced that they can basically just rely on that. They have faster than light travel, which is how they were able to track Silver Surfer and then meet Silver Surfer and Galactus on their own ship, because they have faster than light travel unlocked. Basically, any kind of technology you can think of, they have. Teleportation, which becomes a key component, faster than light travel, fucking everything is at their disposal, fundamentally. And it's really cool, but if you start to like nitpick it, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense why there would even be like some of the problems they've had when they have this kind of technology. But anyway, they meet Galactus on the ship, and he is amazing. He's on his throne, he's got his fucking wires in, he's like strapped in, he's got a really commanding voice, and the aura, extraordinary, very menacing. And he makes them a deal, like, if you give me your child, because he knows Sue is pregnant, she is about to give birth, which I thought was a little weird that she was so gung-ho about this journey, this mission, because it does put the baby in jeopardy as well. Like, they went there to negotiate with a devourer of worlds while she is about to give birth. Like, she is literally on the cusp of giving birth any moment. She goes there, and Galactus is like, if you give me that baby, I'll spare your world. Because he recognizes that that baby, Franklin, it's like the most powerful being in Marvel. He's like, that character right there is broken. So I want to pass my curse of eternal hunger onto Franklin. That's the whole plan. Which, of course, is a deal they decline. And in doing so, that invokes the wrath of the Silver Surfer and Galactus, and it leads to this chase. This faster than light chase, where they're going through a wormhole. The Silver Surfer is following. Galactus was also doing a demonstration of just how fucking powerful he can be as well. And it's really cool because during this chase, they all contribute greatly to trying to survive the encounter. Ben is flying the ship. Reed is doing advanced calculations, all while Sue is literally giving birth in a zero-G environment during this faster-than-light chase, and Johnny is manning the guns, shooting at the Silver Surfer, and they have to like change trajectory of the firing because it's trapping around a wormhole. It is beautiful to look at, and eventually it leads them to a black hole, where they, of course, hatch a plan where Sue makes the ship invisible, which then surprises the Silver Surfer, who gets sucked into the black hole for a little while. It's a really, really great scene. I thought it looked great, it was exciting, and even though it is a little wacky, like the giving birth during all of this, they play it off so well, where Reed is balancing, like, helping his wife give birth, while also trying to keep everyone alive and not get sucked in this black hole or just killed by the Silver Surfer. I thought it was great. I loved that. But now I want to mention what I didn't like in regards to the Silver Surfer. They start this, like, plot line with her and Johnny, where Johnny makes a joke like, oh, I love women and I love space, and now there's a space woman, like, whoa, joking with his friends. But they do actually kind of open that door briefly, because he is constantly, there's like 3 scenes maybe they share together, because Silver Surfer's not super present in the movie outside of like in the beginning and then at the very end. But anyway, she says something to him in her native tongue, and he is able to decode not only her entire language and speak it fluently, he is able to then learn every little tiddlywink of lore about Shala Ball, her home world, why she's doing what she's doing with Galactus, everything. Johnny probably got her fucking SAT scores. So, when she is like chasing him through the city after blowing up some of their things, very important things that they're blowing up with the teleportation devices to try and, you know, teleport the Earth away from Galactus, he ambushes her with a bunch of, you know, phrases and sentences from her native language, which of course surprises her. And then he lectures her about, like, her past. And that's when we learn a little bit about Shala Ball, how Galactus was going to eat her world, but she made a deal with Galactus to be his scout in order to spare her planet, which he accepts, turns her into the Silver Surfer, and he plays her messages of thanks from her people, but then reminds her that all the planets she's scouting for Galactus that are being devoured also have people like this that weren't so lucky, and they're all dying to her, and then she has like a mental breakdown. It just felt kind of lackluster because Johnny has spent the vast majority of this film doing that research on trying to learn everything about her through her one sentence in her native tongue, which he successfully does, and I thought it would lead to like this big eureka moment where there'd be so much more, you know, from it, but it is just that like one ambush of like, you know, the truth, yeah, cold water, you're killing people. And to me it just felt kind of lackluster because obviously she knows she's killing people. Like, she knows that, and she even makes a mention like maybe you'll live long enough to forgive yourself. Like, she knows what she's doing is leading to the death of countless people, an entire species, millions, billions of lives lost as she scouts these planets. But she's doing it because she's protecting her planet. So she is very, like I would imagine, very callous about it. And somehow, Johnny speaking like 3 sentences in her native tongue and then saying like, hey, you know, you're about to kill us, we'd like to not die, somehow that's enough to make her like quit everything on the spot. It just felt like it was a little simple to just remind her like, you're about to kill us, that's not good. Whereas, I mean, she knows that. It's not like she takes joy in it. Like, there wasn't anything new to come from that. It basically just boiled down to, I know you come from this planet, and you didn't want them to die. We don't want to die. And she's like, no! And then she's willing to, like, you know, stop what she's doing. So overall, I just felt it was a little underwhelming with the Silver Surfer. And I mentioned that they did a good job with Galactus. I think I mentioned that in the beginning. I really do like what they did with Galactus here overall, until the very end. When Galactus touches down, and as he's like marching through the city, you know, like a giant kaiju, it is so cool. He looks great. He is scary, intimidating. That is an actual, like, world-ending, universal threat level monster right there. And they do a good job at getting that across until the very end. So you see, the Fantastic Four, their plans to, you know, avoid Galactus didn't work, so their last plan is to trap him and teleport him deep into space to get him off of Earth. It's a good plan. It is a smart plan. And what happens is, he figures out that it's a trap, that the baby they were using as bait to get him into the teleport zone wasn't actually there. It was a clever trick from the crew. He sees through it and then goes and gets the real Franklin. And then that's when they directly engage him. So you have like the Thing throwing things at him, which is cool. You get to see the Thing fight. Granted, it's kind of inconsequential because it does nothing to Galactus, obviously, but it is still cool. I like the Thing, so just getting to see him work in any capacity in a fight was nice. And since there wasn't any fighting until this point, it was nice to see him get to let loose a little bit. I think some people might have an issue with the lack of fighting in this film. There's really only a fight at the end, and really the only time most of them use their powers is at the end. But for me, I didn't mind that at all. I thought they did a great job everywhere else leading up to that, that when it got to that point, it felt like a really nice payoff. Anyway, even though it is inconsequential, it is cool to see that. They even have like the Johnny and Thing team up with the clobbering time, which was cool. I also really like how they showcase Galactus' strength. So like the Thing is about to hit him with a crane, and Galactus catches it and then just flicks the Thing off, and it literally shoots him off the planet. Johnny had to go out there into space, grab him, bring him back, and then they do like an ODST shock drop of the Thing, and he punches Galactus and staggers him. It was cool. I just wish it actually meant something, because ultimately what happens is the Thing, Johnny, and Reed, they can do nothing to slow down Galactus at all. They are bugs to him. He even says clever bugs when he figured out their trap. And they can't hurt him with anything. Reed barely uses his powers at all, really. Like, he stretches a little bit, but it doesn't amount to anything, and then he eventually just gets, like, super stretched by Galactus, which knocks him unconscious, basically. So, it was really kind of sad that the gang couldn't do anything to, like, team up and fight him. Instead, they just went, like, one by one throwing things at him, which obviously didn't work. So then it was entirely on Sue's shoulders, and Sue solos him. So Sue, using her powers, is able to like constrict and push Galactus towards the teleporter, and Galactus just takes it. Like, he doesn't really fight back, so he has Franklin in his hand, and Sue is pushing him, and he's just like, like he's been fucking stun-locked or something in Resident Evil. Like, he's just getting perpetually pushed back with no resistance from him. So it felt really underwhelming, because we have just seen how strong he can be, how literally nothing can stop him, but Sue is able to solo him. Like, I understand how powerful Sue is in comics, but this is Galactus. It should have been more of like a battle. Like, Galactus shouldn't have been completely defenseless here. Like, they didn't let him go fucking hog wild or anything. Like, he doesn't even really demonstrate like 1% of what he's capable of, and in the most important moment, where he's about to be teleported away and he knows that this is about to be game over for him, he doesn't get to do anything to try and fight back. Sue is still able to just push him. And of course it is taking a lot of effort on her part, but it just felt like it would have been so much more satisfying if all four of them banded together and as a family they were able to get Galactus through the teleporter, as opposed to just Sue soloing it and everyone else is just kind of like playing support. It's playing second fiddle. Like, Reed just kind of stretches and eventually makes it to his hand to get Franklin. Important task for sure, but all they're doing, what I'm saying, is they're directly just letting Sue handle it. At least until the very end, where Sue, she basically used all of her energy, all of her power, and is dead from it. And it wasn't enough to keep Galactus in the teleporter. He's coming back out, and there's only a couple seconds till the teleporter fully closes and gets him out of there. So then the Silver Surfer comes in and stops Johnny's hero moment. Johnny was going to fly through and basically sacrifice himself getting Galactus through the teleporter, but the Silver Surfer blasts him out of the way so she can do it. So the Silver Surfer delivers the final blow, pushing them both through the teleporter. Like, I don't hate the idea of having the Silver Surfer do that. I just don't think it hit that hard, considering we didn't get a whole lot with this Silver Surfer. So, like, the concept of having the Silver Surfer be the one to do that, I think works, but they just didn't do enough with the Silver Surfer in this movie to make that feel super satisfying. But it is a cool looking scene, so it has that going for it. Pretty much everything in the movie looks good, at least. And then, you know, Sue doesn't die because Franklin is there, and if you know anything about the comics, Franklin is like the most powerful being there is, so Franklin, being a baby, is able to bring her back to life, which I think is going to be a huge problem, like, balancing-wise for the movies going forward. Like, what the fuck do you do with a character this strong? And in the post-credit scene, it's 4 years later, so now Franklin is 4 years old. He can talk and everything now. this is going to be like a really, really powerful character that I'm very curious to see how they do balance them. Like I do like the post-credit scene, by the way. Dr. Doom makes his first appearance. It was very hype. But I'm just very skeptical that they're going to be able to use Franklin in a way that isn't just like a, you know, ace up their sleeve, last resort type thing. You know, where everything's gone tits up. Okay, Franklin, come save us, and he just snaps his fingers and everything's healed and everything's fixed. It's just because Franklin can just bring people back to life, right? So how the fuck can there even be stakes going forward with Franklin now in the Mega Mix? He can always just bring people back to life. The only way to stop that is to somehow, like, nerf Franklin, which then isn't really fulfilling. Like, it's not satisfying to see because now we've already seen that Franklin can bring people back to life. It just feel like kind of a cop-out. I think it's going to be tough, but I'm very curious, and I'm somewhat optimistic because this movie was good. So I'm optimistic they can deliver more quality to this level. I'm just really wondering how, is the point. So yeah, like I said, I enjoyed this one. I do think this is a good movie. It stands on its own two legs. You don't need any kind of, like, you know, brushing up on anything before going into this one. It is just a family film that I think is compelling from start to finish, that I really think is a good sign of things to come from Marvel. It's going in a good direction. Gets me excited. So yeah, that's really about it. So yeah. There is huge censorship going on in gaming right now. I'm sure a lot of you saw. Steam a few days back announced that hundreds of games have been pulled from their catalog because of the efforts of a group known as Collective Shout. Collective Shout is an organization that has been forcing payment processors to bully platforms into removing games they deem unfit for sale due to the themes around them. And for Steam's case, they targeted hundreds of adult games that featured, like, rape and incest. And a lot of people were pumping their fist like, yeah, that's good. How could you possibly be mad at that? Less degeneracy and disgusting shit on the platform. This is a big W across the board. It's not censorship if it's things I don't like being taken down. Obviously, like every weapon out there, this is only going to be used for good. Clearly, they're only going to use this power to take down very bad, gross things. Which is the most low IQ take you could ever have. Collective Shout, just yesterday, has now also gone after itch.io, and they have removed every single not suitable for work game from their platform. Not just rape and incest games, all adult games. We have de-indexed all adult NSFW content from our browse and search pages. We understand this action is sudden and disruptive, and we are truly sorry for the frustration and confusion caused by this change. Recently, we came under scrutiny from our payment processors regarding the nature of some content hosted on itch.io. Due to a game titled No Mercy, which was temporarily available on itch.io before being banned back in April, the organization Collective Shout launched a campaign against Steam and itch.io directing concerns to our payment processors about the nature of certain content found on both platforms. So this is the playbook here. Collective Shout is a very powerful organization who somehow has a lot of leverage on payment processors. I don't know if they're just over there giving them perpetual wet willies or they got some serious dirt on like the upper echelon elites in the food chain at the payment processors. Like they got proof they're in the Epstein files or some shit. But they have got these payment processors by the nutsack. And they are squeezing the piss from their balls. So now the payment processors are LARPing as the moral authority on what people are allowed to spend the money they earned on. So they're making these sweeping censorship changes to Steam and itch.io. Steam, they made it very easy for the public to not make a big stink about it because they went after a very low-hanging fruit target that most people aren't going to be upset about. Oh no, you lost all your rape and, incest games. Boo-hoo, call the fucking wambulance. But what people don't realize is that is clearly just the first step here. Collective Shout has now already taken that, which hasn't even been like a full week, and it's translated it to wiping all adult content from itch.io, a totally separate platform using the same methodology of having the payment processors threaten to leave them. Censorship is not something that is a good thing. This is not a positive thing. Yoko Taro also came forward saying, like, this is pretty bad stuff, that other countries can now limit everyone else's free speech. He's right. That's not great. You don't like to see that. And let's go ahead and extend this to its natural conclusion here. As Collective Shout becomes more and more successful at censoring games, other organizations will spring up and do the same for things Collective Shout maybe doesn't want to see censored. Like, who's to say, with this censorship, now that it's proven that it can be done by having the payment processors threaten to pull out of these services, if you could bully them through the payment processors, you win. That's checkmate. Who's to say an organization doesn't pop up that wants to take away all kinds of LGBTQ representation in games? And now that they have a proven formula to follow, they could easily spring up and be probably very successful. Another organization could come about where they believe that M-rated games just shouldn't exist. Games should be focused purely to appeal to a younger demographic. They shouldn't be deep, thought-provoking games. There should be no violence. There could easily be a very puritanical organization that comes forward making similar pushes for censorship. I don't know how delusional you have to be to think that somehow this is only ever going to be used against bad things. It's not. And it's already extending way beyond what it started with for Collective Shout. They started with a very easy win on a genre of games that most people aren't really going to miss. And they have already extended that to just broad adult content from another platform, itch.io. And as they continue to be more successful, more organizations are going to follow that blueprint, follow those footsteps, and be successful as well, censoring other things that maybe Collective Shout doesn't want to see censored. It's going to just be fucking pandemonium, because it is clear now that these platforms are willing to go belly up, roll over, and suck the fucking schmeat of the payment processing cartel that shackles them. These payment processing patriots, who all of a sudden care so deeply about morality, are able to get these platforms to censor themselves at the behest of the organizations that are strong-arming them. It's absurd, and it doesn't stop there. If you do any amount of research on Collective Shout, you'll see that it's not just like adult games. They also went after Detroit Become Human and Grand Theft Auto 5 for absolutely fucking outlandish reasons. Like, this is actual horse hockey. And another scary fact, the article I was reading on stream, which I'm going to show you clips from so you can see about their previous attempts to go after things like Detroit Become Human and GTA 5, that article that I was reading in got taken down 8 hours after stream because Vice deemed it was a little too controversial, because the article wasn't super favorable to Collective Shout. So Collective Shout not only has pull in censoring games, but it looks like they can even take down some articles that are a little, harsh on how they're going about their mission or what they're trying to do here. In other words, it seems virtually impossible for Steam to host any adult games depicting child abuse. Rather, Collective Shout may be targeting popular video games that depict children in scenarios where they face distress or harm, even if these depictions are intended to encourage concern and care in the player. From there, the organization may be describing these titles as featuring child abuse. In 2018, Collective Shout encouraged its supporters to sign a petition to ban Detroit Become Human for sale in Australia, claiming the game features child abuse and violence against women. The petition focused on an abusive father's violent behavior towards his housekeeper and daughter in the game. This dynamic, core to the character Kara's story arc, is intended to encourage empathy for the abused woman and child. While it's unclear whether Collective Shout is actively targeting Detroit Become Human in 2025, the removal of such a game would be akin to artistic censorship of material discussing misogynistic abuse against female family members. Targeting the game, in other words, could be considered anti-feminist in intent. That doesn't really make any sense. In 2014, the organization called on Target to remove Grand Theft Auto 5 from store shelves, sharing a petition that claims the game encourages players to commit sexual violence and kill women. Collective Shout described GTA as if it were a misogynistic funhouse, stating the game lets players enact their fantasies of committing extreme violence against women, including punching women to the point of unconsciousness, killing them with a bat, gun, or machete, running them down with a car, and setting them on fire as they continue screaming. What world are we living in? What? So that all this is only reserved and acceptable if it's men. Like, if you're killing men with a bat, gun, and machete, running them down with a car and setting them on fire as they scream. These arguments are so weak and flimsy, and I think just downright detrimental to what they claim their mission is. This would basically, like these two things in conjunction, would make it so like most games won't even put women in there. So let's take the first example about like how children in like distress and harm is something that they would target and try and take down. It's why they went after Detroit Become Human. Let's extend that scope. Things like Limbo, Last of Us, out of sight. Like these games where there are kids present and they do go through like hardship, that would be removed under their guidelines here. In Detroit Become Human, it's not like they're trying to glorify this type of horrible thing. It is used as a way of showcasing how bad a situation is and getting empathy from the player for what is happening to these characters. And yet, they want to take it down, even though it is used to deliver positive messaging to the player. It's like they don't want any deep themes in their games, and not only that, it's like they don't want women to even be interactable in the games. So also something that wouldn't fly under their protocol here would be things like Tomb Raider. Any game where a female is leading it wouldn't really be possible because the women in the game are going to go through distress. Like Lara Croft goes through a lot worse than what they listed for GTA 5 being a misogynistic funhouse. Lara Croft gets killed in so many different ways potentially if you fail certain things. She's constantly being hunted, hurt. It's all like pretty much no game with a female character in it could be made if Collective Shout continues to gain this much power. It's a fucking absurd notion here. God of War, the new God of War, those games couldn't be made because Kratos' son obviously goes through a lot there. That would be a child in a harmful and distressing situation. It would be poo-pooed by Collective Shout. They would banish that shit to the Shadow Realm. Like, their rules on what is and is not acceptable are just unhinged. Again, this would fundamentally, like, scrub women from video games. Like, I don't know why they're not grasping that concept. They call GTA 5 a misogynistic funhouse because you can hurt women in it and that kind of thing, which you can also do to men. But the issue is exclusively because women can also be hurt and killed in GTA 5 just like the men can. It's not like GTA 5 is telling the player, you have to go commit these sexual violent acts against women right now. We need you as the player to score 100 sexual violent crimes against our women in the city right now. Go out there. That's the quest. Go fucking slap 1,000 women for maximum turbo gamer points. Like, it's pretty fucking crazy. So basically, if you are going to have women in the games, the only way I see that even be possible with Collective Shout's, groundwork they're laying here, the way I understand it, is if every female in the game is immortal, God mode activated, and uninteractable outside of dialogue and cutscenes, but the female character also cannot go through anything distressing or deep, basically has to just be like a completely flat nothing burger of a character, otherwise it could be like too much harm that they faced or something in the game. It just seems completely antithetical to what the mission they claim to have is. Again, with how they have targeted games in the past and what they're currently doing, it feels like most game companies, in order to play ball with these demands, will probably just elect to not have female-facing games, like with a lead female protagonist, and they will probably ensure that the female characters that might appear in the game don't play a big role in it because they never know what Collective Shout might have an issue with. And since these games' budgets are so bloated these days, I don't think they'll be willing to take any kind of chances, any type of risk of their game being just like wiped off of like the biggest fucking gaming platforms like Steam. So they'll probably just elect to play it safe and have any female characters just in the background with a really insignificant role. Because, again, there's no way of knowing what Collective Shout's going to try and spin when it comes to these games and these characters. Like, again, Detroit Become Human. All of that they listed there as an issue, that was literally in the game to deliver messaging on how unacceptable that shit is. It was used for empathy, not a glorification or anything at all. It was actually delivering a message that really feels very in line with what Collective Shout claims to fight for. It is completely out of control. And let's go ahead and just continue to play a little here, a little theater of the mind. If you can successfully bully payment processors, and it's reported that Collective Shout is doing this by constantly phoning them up with like 1,000 employees or so. I don't know if that's all confirmed or not. But if you can get 1,000 people together and successfully have these payment processors threaten to leave some of the biggest platforms for gaming, think about what kind of power you can control with these payment processors. If you can just have them like puppets on your strings, that is so dangerous. There is no amount of mental gymnastics you can possibly do to conjure up a justification for why a payment processor has a say in what you can spend your money on, what they will permit you to spend your doubloons on. That is a bad direction for the future, which obviously extends far beyond just video games. This is a much bigger topic, a bigger issue than just gaming. If payment processors now going to step in and basically be like the fucking, lacrosse house party guy who's like, who do you know here? No, you're not allowed in. When you're trying to spend your money on a product, we've got a huge problem. Just play with that possibility here for a second. Like, let's say you want to buy a dildo or something, right? You want an adult sex toy. Well, what if the payment processors deem those to be obscene? We will not support any businesses that are selling these adult toys. Consumers shouldn't be able to buy these. Okay, all of a sudden you can't buy those? That's been fucking wiped out. And let's take it to something that's not even sexual. Let's say a katana or something. I want a katana for my room. I really like some of the blades from One Piece. It'd be really nice to have a replica blade. Well, turns out the payment processors deem those to be a little too dangerous and threaten to pull out of any websites that are offering katanas for sale because those are some very scary, lethal weapons. So, can't buy those anymore. It's a big issue. Payment processors should have no say in what you spend your fucking money on. Of course, that doesn't apply when it's like you trying to buy something highly illegal, I get that. But things like this is absurd. Like, this is completely preposterous and out of control. Anyway, I just had to yap about this a bit. That's really it. See ya. With the amount of tomatoes I've thrown at Ubisoft over the last couple of years, I could run Heinz out of business. It is incredibly easy to hate this company, and they make it clear that they deserve it. They are not shy about telling you how much they hate you. They've become infamous for the you will own nothing and be happy mentality. They have even point blank said that gamers need to be comfortable not owning their games. This is a company that every step of the way chooses all of the wrong options during the QuickTime events. They are not even accidentally saying things that anyone could appreciate, even the most die-hard Ubisoft Formula fans, if such a creature even exists at this point. They can't even unintentionally say something agreeable. Even as their stock price plummets, fucking death spirals, they somehow dig deeper. This is the equivalent to the captain of a sinking ship turning on all the sink faucets to try and fill it up with even more water as much as possible. I cannot understand it. Today, they've gone on quite the spree here, an entire montage of bad takes from Ubisoft, and I have to make fun of them again. I actually have to. Keep in mind, this company is so misguided. They released multiple NFT games only a year ago. And NFTs are dead and buried, and somehow Ubisoft is still pooping those puppies out. It's crazy how out of touch Ubisoft is. In order to prove that the stupid juice is still flowing deeply at Ubisoft headquarters to this day, let's go ahead and show you their most recent annual financial report where they talk about their microtransactions and how microtransactions are actually a good thing because it allows their players to experience more fun. Very reminiscent of that time EA defended Battlefront controversial decisions by claiming that it was intended to give players a sense of pride and accomplishment. You can catch a slight whiff of that aroma here in the Ubisoft financial report with that statement. And I also can't help but giggle at the first line in their financial report where they try and claim that they're an industry leader in this sector. What a load of fucking barnacles. Get a load of this guy. Maybe at one point in time they were, but these days they are just a public spittoon for people to walk by and hawk loogies on. They are a sad shell of their former self. But this is all public, you can all read it yourself if you want to put your peepers on it. Down here is where you can find this statement: the adoption of monetization and engagement policies that respect the player experience and are sustainable in the long term. At Ubisoft, the golden rule when developing premium games is to allow players to enjoy the game in full without having to spend more. Our monetization offer within premium games makes the player experience more fun by allowing them to personalize their avatars or progress more quickly. However, this is optional. How delusional can you be? It's not even like a good lie. The motivator for these microtransactions that they are ham-fisting into every single game of theirs for the last decade is solely driven by wanting to hose the consumer for more money beyond the initial purchase of the game. trying to squeeze some more coins out of the piggy banks of the players, hoping that some of the whales will pay to maybe speed progress up like they mentioned. And while yes, it is optional, there is a little something called pay to win, and it is a very real thing. It's not some make-believe boogeyman. But even in cases where you're offering microtransactions in single-player games, which Ubisoft loves to do, that's not exactly something worth celebrating, because now you're devoting resources into trying to find ways to get more money out of this single-player game, when those resources could have been devoted to just making the game better in the first place, something that Ubisoft seems very against. Their games fall into the same formula and have been for so long now that people are beyond tired of it. And instead of trying to find ways to breathe new life into their titles, they instead try and find new ways of monetizing them through these microtransactions and shit. It's so tone deaf as well, and it shows very clearly that they don't even see player feedback, because every single Ubisoft game that comes out that is riddled, infected with microtransactions, like every Assassin's Creed now, you find collective sighs from even the most loyal supporters of the franchise. People aren't happy with it. And here they are just completely ignoring it and trying to spin it as a positive thing. Like, oh, it's always optional. Like, it actually like goes over really well because, you know, personalized fun, right? Who wouldn't want to pay for that? Am I right? But another thing that also came out here is Ubisoft's thoughts on the real reason Star Wars Outlaws flopped. They are blaming disinterest in the franchise, which, when it was reported that Outlaws was stumbling and not performing all that well, that was cope they used back then as well, like some whispers of it being like, oh, the IP is just not as strong as it once was. Now they're just coming out here with their whole chest saying, no, the reason Outlaws didn't do well is just because no one cares about Star Wars anymore, which is fucking crazy. They are just refusing to take the L and come to terms with the fact that the reason Outlaws didn't do well is it's just not a good game. And it doesn't even have the decency of being like a laughably horrible game where it could be like entertaining in how shitty it is. It is just so boring. It is like the most safe, by-the-numbers, bland, sterile, Ubisoft, Ubislop game. It is the same generic, open-world Ubisoft experience that we have seen 1,000 times before, and clearly people are tired of. The only difference with this one is it had a Star Wars skin on it. And also, some of the worst stealth you'll find. But outside of the worst stealth you'll find, everything else was just serviceable. And it didn't even try to do anything well. It was just content being mid. And Ubisoft has, for some reason, really struggled with accepting the fact that mid just doesn't really cut it anymore. People don't want more Ubisoft open-world games. It's been done a billion times the exact same way every time. It's tired and it's played out, and the sales show that with Star Wars Outlaws. It has nothing to do with the weakening of the IP, which is a real thing. Since going to Disney, it hasn't been as strong. A lot of the Disney shows have been super stinkers, but I think there is more evidence to the contrary that there is a hunger for good Star Wars, as demonstrated by Andor. I can't glaze Andor enough. I think that show is a masterpiece, and I think the reception and the absolute booming success of it speaks for that. People want good Star Wars. They're just not getting it often. Very rarely with something like Andor coming out. Star Wars Outlaws falls into the really uninteresting bucket of Star Wars that people just don't want to play with anymore. They don't want to touch, they don't want to indulge with. But there is still very much a lot of people wanting good Star Wars. It has nothing to do with the IP, with why Star Wars Outlaws flopped. But Goober is still trying to write it off as one of the contributing factors that the game suffered from a number of items. First, it suffered from the fact it was released at a time when the brand that it belonged to was in a bit of choppy water, and then he acknowledges some technical problems, such as things missing polish, but they were polished and debugged early enough, but it had an effect. Which, again, like, yeah, there were some technical issues, but that is not the main reason that it failed, nor is it the strength of the IP during your release window here. You made basically the exact same copy and paste Ubisoft open world game again. No one wants it. Just accept it and do something different. The final little nugget from Ubisoft today is in regards to them loosely addressing Stop Killing Games, or more so, what they believe Stop Killing Games is about. And it's not the best response, but it's also being misrepresented by some publications with what he was actually saying. So apparently, Ubisoft CEO Goober was asked to respond to the movement at a recent shareholders meeting and said, regarding the petition, we operate in a market, and whenever we release a game, we provide a lot of support for that game. We also provide a lot of services to make sure that the game is accessible and remains playable 24/7. Wow, what saints. How unique. These heroes make sure a game is accessible 24/7, huh? That's never been done before. Holy shit. Crazy concept. Whoa.
Hi guys, it's me again, and today we're going to talk about the parasite that is payment processors, primarily Visa and MasterCard, in between their very busy schedule of scamming random financially illiterate people into contracts with credit cards that have 30% interest. They've somehow also managed to fuck up the internet at the same time. So recently there's been a group called Collective Shout, which is, I know this might surprise you, a militant group of obnoxious Karens from, I believe, Australia, but let's be honest, it's going to be all over the world, that have gotten together to bully and attack Visa and MasterCard into refusing service with Steam and pressuring Steam to remove certain games off of Steam because these games hurt their feelings. Oh no, it's an incest game. Oh no, it's a fucking not safe for work game. It's a porn game. Who gives a fuck? Who cares? The thing is that, and this is the big issue that I have, I'm very agitated about this because I see where this is going. It begins with the incest games, and it ends with whatever the fuck they want. And so if anybody remembers back in the 2000s, if anybody 3,000 years ago, whenever they were talking about how Grand Theft Auto is causing school shootings and these video games are causing this stuff, what's to stop these disgusting fucking annoying Karens from being able to bully these processors into effectively not allowing us to play the video games that we want, not allowing us to consume the content that we want, and fundamentally, at a very, very basic level, limiting our freedom of expression through effectively looking at the chain, finding the weakest link in the chain, and taking as much advantage of it as possible. And I want to say another thing. Collective Shout and every other Karen incorporated group, every other bullshit advocacy group that's trying to bully these payment processors, they are the symptom and they are not the disease. Because if you get rid of them, there's just going to be another one that replaces them that does the exact same fucking thing. The disease is the payment processors and the fact that they can act effectively as a cartel. They have total autonomy to deny service to anybody for any reason if they think that it will affect their brand. Well, why don't we go ahead and think about this in any other utility or any other service? Imagine if you can't get electricity because, oh, well, you use that electricity to go on websites that people disagree with or they don't like. And I have no problem with them denying service to something that is illegal, by the way. I think that's totally okay. But whenever these people want to create their own moral legality and then use these payment processors as a pseudo-government to enforce it as a pretty much monopoly across the entire internet, that's not a free market, that's a fucking cartel. And I think they need to be regulated. I definitely do, and I think that's the only way that this actually solves itself. Now, obviously, it's great if we had new payment processors come into the space, and I know that a lot of people talk about crypto as a solution to this. I understand that. I personally think that you need to have more regulations for financial stuff, but that's a different conversation. The one thing that I think we can all agree on is that the current situation is bad. And anyway, so the issue that we have right now is that these payment processors are able to effectively limit our freedom of speech, limit our freedom of expression, tell us what we're allowed to see and what we're not allowed to see on the internet by denying service and refusing to do business with these different companies. Now, you might think that this is freedom of association, and to a certain degree you'd be right, but the problem is that it's not a free market. If it was a free market, you would have some companies that would be willing to do it, and some companies that would not. But the issue is because Visa and MasterCard control such a large market share of payment processing market, what that causes is it causes people to be forced effectively into using them as a service. And in the same way that you guys know this, if you live in an area that only has maybe one power service, or you live in an area that only has one internet service, oftentimes that service is either, there are two outcomes, guys. It's either regulated or it's garbage. And sometimes it's both. But I can guarantee you one thing, it's certainly not good. And the fact is that I understand some people might be against regulation, but I've got to tell you, okay, if you're sitting on the internet using your smartphone complaining about regulation, you might as well just be a fish complaining about water. Everything is regulated. Your car is regulated, your phone is regulated, the battery in your phone is regulated, the data your phone receives is regulated. Everything in the world is regulated, but we're somehow supposed to think that, oh wow, these billion-dollar companies that, by the way, how the fuck does a credit card company make money? Oh, that's right, by scamming stupid people who don't understand math out of money, writing it off as a loss whenever they don't get the money back, and then being able to say that, oh, well, it's okay, we're not going to pay this off as a tax, because guess what, we didn't make any fucking money, because we're signing contracts with massive interest rates to people that are financially illiterate. And so anyway, these companies exist as a parasite, okay? They are a parasite, they steal money from people, they are awful. And anyway, now we have a situation that they are affecting our freedom of speech on the internet. They are affecting our freedom of expression on the internet wholesale. And it's only going to get worse, because once these disgusting, fat, annoying, fucking, just Karens go and they realize, oh, it works one time, what do you think they're gonna do? They're gonna just say, oh, well, that's it. Well, I heard The View got canceled today, so after this, they're gonna be fucking bored. So they're going to keep canceling and trying to bully these companies into doing even more things. And there's another not safe for work website. Oh, well, now there's another one. Oh, well, they shouldn't have to support porn. Yeah, they fucking should. The same as your internet provider should. The same as your electricity provider should. The same as your water provider should. Can you imagine if they decide to turn off your fucking water or your electricity because you're going to a porn website that they don't like? It's ridiculous. And so I think that we need to have a degree of accountability here. These companies enjoy a massive privilege in this market. They are effectively totally free to do whatever the fuck they want. And that is going to, unfortunately, negatively affect everybody else. And to be honest with you guys, how many of you know somebody who has credit card debt? It probably already has negatively affected people. And so anyway, my video, what I'm talking about right now, is that I think we need to spread more awareness to this, more people need to know about this, because if it doesn't stop here, it's going to keep going into politics, it's going to keep going into different worldviews, it's going to go into religious stuff, it's going to go into every single aspect that you can possibly imagine, because these companies are gun shy and they're afraid of any degree of pushback. So the best thing that you can do, by the way, is if there's ever an instance where people are trying to push for a payment processor to not do something, these companies are afraid of pushback and they're afraid of backlash. That's what they're fundamentally afraid of. So if you want to make it to where they don't do these things, they don't make these changes, you have to be louder than these screeching, banshee, harpy, siren Karens. That's what you have to do. You have to do that, and if you don't, they're going to be a lot louder than you are, and that's what's happened for the last 10 years. And luckily, now, especially in the past 3 years, the majority of the internet has basically said, hoes mad, too bad, and we've decided to ignore them. However, they have found, as I said, that one weak link, which is the payment processors. And again, they are awful, they're terrible, but they are a symptom and not the disease. We have to look at these payment processors, how much of a monopoly of everything that they control inside of any online transaction, inside of anything that they're doing in terms of money, and are they using that position in some way that is beneficial for everybody? Is this something that subverts people's expression, or is it something that hurts them? Well, it's pretty obvious, isn't it? And so I wanted to make this video, and I wanted to talk to
You've estimated that we'll have AGI by 2030. So there's interesting questions around that. How will we actually know that we got there? And what may be the move 37 of AGI?
My estimate is sort of 50% chance in the next 5 years. So, by 2030, let's say. And So I think there's a good chance that that could happen. Part of it is what is your definition of AGI? Of course, people are arguing about that now, and mine's quite a high bar and always has been of like, can we match the cognitive functions that the brain has, right? So we know our brains are pretty much general Turing machines, approximate, and of course we've created incredible modern civilization with our minds. So that also speaks to how general the brain is, and for us to know we have a true AGI, we would have to like make sure that it has all those capabilities. It isn't kind of a jagged intelligence where some things it's really good at, like today's systems, but other things it's really flawed at. And that's what we currently have with today's systems. They're not consistent. So you'd want that consistency of intelligence across the board. And then we have some missing, I think, capabilities, like sort of the true invention capabilities and creativity that we were talking about earlier. So you'd want to see those. How you test that, I think you just test it. One way to do it would be kind of brute force test of tens of thousands of cognitive tasks that we know that humans can do, and maybe also make the system available to a few hundred of the world's top experts, the Terence Towers of each subject area, and see if they can find, give them a month or two and see if they can find an obvious flaw in the system. And if they can't, then I think you're pretty, you can be pretty confident we have a fully general system.
Maybe to push back a little bit, it seems like humans are really incredible as the intelligence improves across all domains to take it for granted. Like you mentioned, Terence Tao, these brilliant experts, they might quickly, in a span of weeks, take for granted all the incredible things it can do and then focus in, well, haha, right there. I consider myself first of all, human.
Yeah.
Second, I identify as human. Some people listen to me talk and they're like, that guy is not good at talking, the stuttering, so like even humans have obvious across domains limits, even just outside of mathematics and physics and so on. I wonder if it will take something like a Move 37, so on the positive side, versus like a barrage of 10,000 cognitive tasks, where it would be one or two where it's like,
yes,
holy shit, this
so
is
I think
special.
Exactly. So I think there's the sort of blanket testing to just make sure you've got the consistency, but I think there are the sort of lighthouse moments like the Move 37 that I would be looking for. So one would be inventing a new conjecture or a new hypothesis about physics like Einstein did. So maybe you could even run the back test of that very rigorously, like have a knowledge cutoff of 1900, and then give the system everything that was written up to 1900, and then see if it could come up with special relativity and general relativity, right, like Einstein did. That would be an interesting test. Another one would be, can it invent a game like Go? Not just come up with Move 37, a new strategy, but can it invent a game that's as deep, as aesthetically beautiful, as elegant as Go? And those are the sorts of things I would be looking out for, and probably a system being able to do several of those things, right, for it to be very general, not just one domain. And so I think that would be the signs, at least that I would be looking for, that we've got a system that's AGI level. And then maybe to fill that out, you would also check the consistency, make sure there's no holes in that system either.
Yeah, something like a new conjecture or scientific discovery, that would be a cool feeling.
Yeah. That would be amazing. So it's not just helping us do that, but actually coming up with something brand new.
And you would be in the room for that. So it would be like probably 2 or 3 months before announcing it. And you would just be sitting there trying not to tweet.
Something like that. Exactly. It's like, what is this amazing new physics idea? And then we would probably check it with world experts in that domain, right? And validate it and kind of go through its workings. And I guess it would be explaining its workings too. It would be an amazing moment.
Do you worry that we, as humans, even expert humans like you, might miss it?
It may be pretty complicated. So it could be, the analogy I give there is, I don't think it will be totally mysterious to the best human scientists, but it may be a bit like, for example, in chess, if I was to talk to Gary Kasparov or Magnus Carlsen and play a game with them and they make a brilliant move, I might not be able to come up with that move, but they could explain why afterwards that move made sense. And we would be able to understand it to some degree. Not to the level they do, but if they were good at explaining, which is actually part of intelligence too, is being able to explain in a simple way that what you're thinking about. I think that would be very possible for the best human scientists.
But I wonder, maybe you can educate me on the side of Go. I wonder if there's moves from Magnus or Gary where they at first will dismiss it as a bad move.
Yeah, sure, there could be. But then afterwards they'll figure out with their intuition that why this works, and then empirically, the nice thing about games is, one of the great things about games is it's a sort of scientific test. Do you win the game or not win? And then that tells you, okay, that move in the end was good. That strategy was good, and then you can go back and analyze that and explain even to yourself a little bit more why, explore around it, and that's how chess analysis and things like that work. So perhaps that's why my brain works like that, because I've been doing that since I was 4, and you're trained, it's sort of hardcore training in that way.
But even now, like when I generate code, there is this kind of nuanced, fascinating contention that's happening, where I might at first identify as a set of generated code as incorrect in some interesting nuanced ways. But then I'm always have to ask the question, is there a deeper insight here that I'm the one who's incorrect? Mm-hmm. And that's going to, as the systems get more and more intelligent, you're going to have to contend with that. It's like, what do you, is this a bug or a feature, what you just came up with?
Yeah, and they're going to be pretty complicated to do, but of course it will be. You can imagine also AI systems that are producing that code or whatever that is, and then human programmers looking at it, but also not unaided with the help of AI tools as well. So it's going to be kind of an interesting, maybe different AI tools to the ones that they're more, kind of monitoring tools to the ones that generated it.
So if we look at an AGI system, sorry to bring it back up, but Alpha Evolve, super cool. So Alpha Evolve enables, on the programming side, something like recursive self-improvement, potentially. Like what, if we can imagine what that AGI system, maybe not the first version, but a few versions beyond that, what does that actually look like? Do you think it will be simple? Do you think it will be something like a self-improving program and a simple one?
I mean, potentially that's possible, I would say. I'm not sure it's even desirable because that's a kind of like hard takeoff scenario.
Yeah.
But you these current systems like Alpha Evolve, they have, human in the loop deciding on various things. They're separate hybrid systems that interact. One could imagine eventually doing that end to end. I don't see why that wouldn't be possible. But right now, I think the systems are not good enough to do that in terms of coming up with the architecture of the code. And again, it's a little bit connected to this idea of coming up with a new conjectural hypothesis. How, like, they're good if you give them very specific instructions about what you're trying to do. But if you give them a very vague, high-level instruction, that wouldn't work currently. And I think that's related to this idea of invent a game as good as Go. Right? Imagine that was the prompt. That's pretty underspecified. And so the current systems wouldn't know, I think, what to do with that, how to narrow that down to something tractable. And I think there's similar, look, just make a better version of yourself. That's too unconstrained. But we've done it in as you know, with Alpha Evolve, things like faster matrix multiplication. Mm-hmm. So when you hone it down to a very specific thing you want, it's very good at incrementally improving that. But at the moment, these are more like incremental improvements, sort of small iterations. Whereas if you wanted a big leap in understanding, you need a much larger advance.
Yeah, but it could also be, sort of to push back against hard takeoff scenario, it could be just a sequence of incremental improvements, like matrix multiplication. Like it has to sit there for days thinking how to incrementally improve a thing, and that it does so recursively. And as you do more and more improvement, it'll slow down.
Right.
So there'll be the path to AGI won't be it'll be a gradual improvement over time.
Yes. If it was just incremental improvements, that's how it would look. So the question is, could it come up with a new leap, like the Transformers architecture?
Yeah.
Right? Could it have done that back in 2017 when we did it and Brain did it? And it's not clear that these systems, something like AlphaVol, wouldn't be able to make such a big leap. So for sure, these systems are good. We have systems, I think, that can do incremental hill climbing, and that's a kind of bigger question about, is that all that's needed from here, or do we actually need one or two more big breakthroughs?
And can the same kind of systems provide the breakthroughs also? So make it a bunch of S-curves, like incremental improvement, but also every once in a while leaps.
Yeah, I don't think anyone has systems that can have shown unequivocally those big leaps. Right, we have a lot of systems that do the hill climbing of the S-curve that you're currently on.
Yeah, and that would be the Move 37.
Yeah, I think it would be a leap, something like that.
Do you think the scaling laws are holding strong on pre-training, post-training, test time, compute? Do you, on the flip side of that, anticipate AI progress hitting a wall?
We certainly feel there's a lot more room just in the scaling. So actually all steps, pre-training, post-training, and inference time. So there's sort of 3 scalings that are happening concurrently. And we, again there, it's about how innovative you can be. And we pride ourselves on having the broadest and deepest research bench. We have amazing, incredible researchers and people like Noam Shazir, who came up with Transformers, and Dave Silver, who led the AlphaGo project, and so on. And it's that.
I'm in Washington, D.C. right now, and I want to visualize for you what it would look like if a nuclear weapon landed on the nation's capital. So, for our scenario, there is a nuclear weapon headed towards the city right now. A large nuclear weapon flying, headed towards Washington, D.C. The actual bomb is actually in here. This cone that's about 2 meters tall, 6 feet. It's falling back into the atmosphere. Here it comes. And then, for a moment, right here is the hottest thing in our solar system, hotter than the sun. 100 million degrees Celsius as it expands out. Everything around it turns into dust. I mean, smaller than dust. Atoms are ripped apart. This fireball instantly vaporizes everything within a half-a-mile radius. And here comes the blast wave. A wall of high-pressure air that is moving faster than the speed of sound. It creates wind behind it that is faster than anything ever observed in nature. Everything within 2.5 miles is leveled. And then there's the heat wave, which burns everything within 5 miles. Nearly everyone in this city is either dead or severely injured. Everything that can be on fire is now on fire as this huge mushroom cloud rises into the air, dragging with it a storm of dust, dirt, and debris. But this isn't normal dust anymore. The bomb has done something to it, to its atoms, making them fall apart in slow motion, shooting out invisible, deadly energy. This poison dust drifts all across this region. It clings to soil and plants and people hundreds of miles away. These poisoned atoms will keep firing off radiation for years, for decades, centuries, even thousands of years. This is a disaster that humans made, and that was just for one of these cones. A rocket fired from an American submarine can carry 8 of these cones at once. If all of those hit one target, it would be a much worse situation. A lot of global politics centers around this, making sure this does not happen. But everything I just showed you is very possible. We have the capabilities to do this right now. And in fact, a lot of countries have their finger on the trigger, able to launch one of these at a moment's notice. And I've spent a very long time trying to understand why. Why have we done this? And why these nuclear weapons, which were famous during the Cold War, are back. They're back in a new way. They're once again becoming the center of global politics.
We are entering one of the most dangerous periods in nuclear history. We're on the cusp of this third age. That nuclear is back.
That's Sam from Search Party. He also made a video about nuclear weapons, but it's different than mine. It went live yesterday. In this video, I'm going to show you how these things work, what countries have them, and how they're used on the global stage. And then Sam's video will take you into this specific moment in time and what to look out for going forward. Help you understand why nuclear weapons are back on the world stage. We're headed into a world that is more and more informed by nuclear weapons and nuclear politics. So it's time we start paying attention. Let me show you. Everyone's telling me that they don't like that my screen shakes. Listen, I can't help it. This thing's big, it's unruly. Sorry. Okay, so what is this thing? Well, it's a bomb, obviously. A very destructive bomb. And it's one that messes with the very building blocks of everything, the atom.
Atoms are the tiny building blocks, which make up everything in the world.
So an atom, of course, is the smallest unit of matter, right? And it's made up of several subatomic particles, electrons, protons, neutrons.
I talked to Destin from the YouTube channel Smarter Every Day. He's a real scientist, engineer. He's making a bunch of videos on nuclear energy. And I talked to him because I wanted to make sure I was grounded in my understanding of the physics of a nuclear bomb. Everything is atoms. Everything that you can touch, the air, everything is atoms. Different kinds of atoms. And these atoms have a little secret hiding in them. Every single atom can be turned into energy. Like actually matter, like atoms and energy are the same thing, they're just in different states.
When I was growing up, Dad used to always say matter is frozen energy.
Like this could be turned into energy, and actually a lot of energy that could like fuel a car or like power my house or like fly me to the moon. And it doesn't take that much mass to create a lot of energy. Let me show you this really quick. This little piece of metal is probably a little more than a gram. Not very heavy. Not a lot of mass, right? If we zoom way into this little clip, you're gonna see a bunch of atoms. Now, there are some powerful forces working on this atom, keeping the nucleus really tightly glued together, keeping the atoms separate from each other so they don't like blob into one another. And thank God for this, because otherwise nothing would be solid. You would sit in a chair and just start sort of fall through. There's a lot of forces happening down with the atoms, keeping everything stable, everything solid. We like these forces. They make it so that my little paperclip thingy doesn't explode and everything doesn't just sort of spontaneously come apart. Stable, good.
Those forces, those subatomic forces are very, very strong.
Now you can break these forces holding atoms together. If you rock their world hard enough, they will kind of rearrange. They will break, and then they'll quickly like reorganize to try to form some sort of stable atom. But in the process, a little bit of matter is left with nowhere to go. It can't bond to anything. And so it spontaneously turns into energy. Every single thing around you, everything, could be turned into energy. An enormous amount of energy. How much energy? I'm glad you asked, because this is the moment that I've been waiting for since I was a child, where in my real adult career, I'm going to be able to invoke the famous equation of our very own Albert Einstein. Yep, I'm doing this. I'm doing the chalkboard thing. For those of you who already know about E equals MC squared and exactly what it means, like skip like 45 seconds ahead, because I'm about to explain it in a way that I've always wanted someone to explain it to me, and I'm gonna do that for you. So, what does Einstein say about how much energy is contained in my little paperclippy thing? The E is energy. The M is mass. How much mass are we turning into energy? And the C is the speed of light in meters per second. The mass of my paperclip is 1 gram. Because this is in kilograms, it's going to be 0.001. I just need to times this by speed of light squared is about 299 million meters per second, but we have to times it by itself, which comes out to be 89 quadrillion 875 trillion 570 billion 873 million 681,764. Whoa. So my paperclip mass times this. Einstein says we have to multiply that big number by the mass of this paperclip to find out how much energy is inside of it. And if you do that math with my 1 gram, you get 89 trillion joules. That's enough energy to power 100,000 homes for 2 weeks, or 1 home for 2,000 years. Just inside of this. Because of that. Okay, giant caveat for everyone watching, and those who study physics will be clamoring for this. You can't actually do that with like an iron paperclip. The amount of energy you would need to like turn this into energy would sort of be more than the energy you get out of it. To actually do this, to release the energy from matter, you need different kinds of atoms, like big unstable ones like the ones we see in uranium. My point here is not that this is ever going to like break and turn into energy, but that when you mess with atoms, the bonds within atoms, and you release a little bit of matter into energy, you don't need very much to create a huge amount. That's what we're about to see in real life.
So fission is a big atom splitting. Fusion, little atoms coming together.
I had a fun time watching Destin show me how fission works in his studio with his very cute looking neutrons and mouse traps. He made a whole video about it that you can check out. Now, for most of time, the only place that this sort of turning matter into energy was happening was not here on Earth, but in the center of stars.
And this is the kind of stuff that happens in the core of the sun, for example.
Where immense heat and pressure is smashing atoms together so hard that they fuse. They rearrange a little bit of matter that isn't fused turns into energy, and you get the literal sun. That's called fusion. But then, in the 1900s, the humans on Earth decided they wanted to start to do something like this themselves. As I talked about, nuclear politics is ramping up in a new way. Iran is the best example of where this is clearly happening, where there's just like a lot of secrecy and vague information as a negotiating tactic, and it's a really normal thing to feel like you're just left with a bunch of headlines and leaks and half answers but no real clear picture, which is exactly why I am a giant fan and big user of Ground News, who is the sponsor of today's video. Ground News is this amazing tool that allows you to see the coverage of a topic from so many different angles all in one view. And you're not just seeing a bunch of headlines, you are getting a deep understanding of what bias that headline might have, what agenda they might have, who might be funding them, how credible or factual they are. Ground News is a long-term partner of the channel. I'm a big fan of what they do. We align very much in our mission to make information more transparent and more clear for people. It's an app and a website that helps me go beyond the echo chamber of social media and see a story from a much deeper perspective. I mean, let's just go back to the Iran example. You can see here on Ground News, in one view, a bunch of different headlines. Like, pull these two out. You can immediately see that this is funded by the government of Qatar. It's high factuality, but it leans left. And their headline emphasizes a framing of Iran rejecting this IAEA report and downplaying the threat and casting doubt on the international narrative. Whereas this Israeli outlet has a more mixed record. It leans right, and it cuts right to the chase and says clearly and slightly misleadingly that Iran has enriched uranium for 10 nuclear bombs and is continuing production. Same story, two totally different angles. Ground News is the only platform I know of where you can see all of these headlines side by side with all of this information and quickly get a grasp of what is going on. It also helps you be less echo chamber-ish with its blind spot feature, showing you stories that you may not be likely to click on or that you are either avoiding consciously or unconsciously. Ground News helps me feel informed in a very short time and sort of ahead of the narrative. And it's not just me. Ground News was recently recognized by the literal Nobel Peace Center for its impact on media literacy. It's completely subscriber funded, and for those who are interested, they are giving a big discount to anyone who goes to ground.news/JohnnyHarris. You can scan this QR code as well, and you will get 40% off the Vantage plan, which is all of these features I talked about today. I think it ends up being like $5 a month all in, so small price to pay for being informed. Thank you, Ground News, for sponsoring today's video, for being a longtime partner, for doing what you do, and with that, let's keep talking about nukes. the 1930s in Germany, and some scientists were tinkering with atoms, and they found a way to break some atoms apart and get in on this insanity of E equals mc squared.
Pretty crazy how safe nuclear power is. But nuclear weapons are scary, aren't they?
Yeah.
When uranium-235 exists in nature, it's not real happy. It's kind of unstable. If a U-235 atom ever gets hit by a neutron, which I have a neutron here. If U-235 ever gets hit by a neutron, then it gets really unstable. And then it breaks apart. That right there breaks into two other atoms. I threw my neutron across the room. That's dangerous when you got U-235 around. I think of U-235 like a mousetrap. So if you think about it, you've got this atom chilling out, and it's got all these neutrons right there, ready to go. If it ever gets triggered, then it will fire, and it will throw off these other neutrons, and they go off. And so if you have a clever arrangement of more U-235 atoms around that, then you can start what's called a chain reaction.
Those neutrons bombard other uranium atoms, causing them to split and split still others. The result? A chain reaction.
They were doing fission, the breaking of big unstable atoms apart. And this wasn't as powerful as the fusion, the combining of atoms that's happening in the center of the sun, but it was still unlike anything the world had ever seen.
Under Hitler, the country was becoming the dominant power in Central Europe.
Germany was kind of getting ready to take over the entire world, and so they thought, what if we weaponize this new nuclear breaking thing we invented? And Einstein, the E equals mc squared guy, was alive at this time and watching his equations be turned into weapons. And Einstein writes this letter to the American president, urging the US to make the bomb before Germany does. And this is where we get into Oppenheimer, the Manhattan Project, brilliant physicists building atomic bombs in the desert, racing against time during World War II. The US, of course, wins this race for the nuclear weapon. They drop 2 of these fission bombs on Japan in 1945. The war is over, and the world has changed forever. Nothing would ever be the same. It was the beginning of a new way of global conflict. A few years later, the Soviets made one of their own, and thus begins a new race. Who can make the bigger bomb? And this is where the US is like, let's not just do the thing where we break atoms apart, let's do what the sun is doing, fuse the atoms together. That's way more powerful. And they figure it out just a few years later, and the results are insane.
Those are capable of megatons of power. 1,000 times more powerful. Because apparently, leveling a city was not powerful enough.
Let me show you what today's nukes look like and how they work. This is a modern nuclear weapon, sometimes called a thermonuclear weapon, hydrogen bomb. This cone is about the same height as an American male. And the actual bomb is in here. We don't know exactly how big it is, but we know it's shaped like a peanut. This cone needs to be mounted on something to deliver it to the target. In this example, it's on a huge rocket that flies to space, can carry this nuke like over 1,000 kilometers away. Eventually, the rocket part falls away, and the cone starts falling towards its target. And then, when it hits its pre-programmed altitude, it detonates. But watch what happens. This is crazy. It's actually 3 bombs. It starts with just a regular old explosive bomb, no nuclear stuff yet. But this bomb, inside of this very small peanut-shaped space, triggers a fission bomb, the first type that we invented, the one that overcomes the forces, keeping an atom stable and breaks them apart and turns a tiny bit of matter into a huge amount of energy. So there's a fission reaction happening, and that shoots out a huge amount of energy at the speed of light that bounces off all these shiny beryllium walls. And then it hits this, and this is the final one. It's so hot in here, 100 million degrees Celsius, that we're basically in the core of a star. It's actually hotter than the core of our sun. Hot enough to do things that stars do. So now in this third bomb, the big one, hydrogen atoms are being smashed together into a new form. A little bit of matter is escaping into E equals mc squared, being multiplied by the speed of light squared, and what you get is total destruction. Yeah, I mean, we made that. We made that. That is possible. Those big ones have never been used in war, and hopefully they never will. Okay, but how big are these? Put them on a city. My city. Washington, D.C. Terrible thought, but we gotta do this exercise. If you were to drop a fission bomb, like the ones we dropped on Japan, that killed hundreds of thousands, it would look like this. Upgrade that to a fusion bomb, like the ones deployed today, and it would look like this. Estimated 350,000 people dead in minutes. During the Cold War, we made these things huge. If you detonate the biggest fusion bomb ever tested, it would look like this. The city would be gone, and people 40 miles away in, like, Baltimore would have life-threatening burns from the heat wave. 300 square miles of buildings destroyed. I mean, this is a horrible possibility that we have invented, and we have a lot of them. Let's look at a map. I like looking at maps. We can't go too long without looking at a map. Today, there are around 12,000 nuclear warheads somewhere on Earth. That's 12,000. 12,000. That's enough firepower to level every sizable city on the planet several times over. The world used to have way more, like more than triple that during the Cold War. Almost every one of these nuclear warheads today is in the hands of two countries, the US and Russia. But in total, there are 9 countries that possess these destructive bombs. And one of these countries doesn't admit that they have nuclear weapons, but they do. And America's nukes aren't just in America. They're scattered all over the world. In ally countries, on land, in air, deep in the ocean, lurking in submarines, in a configuration that the US calls its nuclear posture. It's one of the most important parts of America's military strategy today, and we're about to see how it actually works in real life. Because these 12,000 nukes shape our entire world. Their threat is ever present. And so it turns the chessboard of geopolitics into a different thing than it was before.
Nuclear weapons, of course, did revolutionize warfare, right? So Bernard Brody in 1946 calls them the absolute weapon. He says that basically before the bomb was invented, the fundamental purpose of military establishments was to plan for, fight, and win wars, and now it would be to prevent them altogether.
So, what stops countries from nuking each other? Well, oh, my camera's shaking again. See in the comments, folks. I don't have a way to stabilize this in a way that like really keeps it from like bouncing around. If you have suggestions on a better camera arm, I'll take it. So the central idea of all of this is pretty simple, pretty intuitive, kind of, but then it kind of messes with your brain in weird ways, and we'll see how that works. You've got these two big empires. They're rivals. They're competing with each other, as big countries do and have always done, and maybe someday they won't, but they do for now. If there's no nukes in this equation, history has taught us that these two big empires will fight each other. Over land, over influence, over resources, over honor, over who knows. They will fight each other. That always has happened. Like, that is the central thread of humanity, is big, powerful entities will fight each other. And in recent centuries, it's gotten really destructive. Like, think of Europe and Asia in the 1940s. Countries are fighting because there's a chance that one of them can win. Okay, now, after 1945, put nukes on the board and watch what happens.
This new weapon that could inflict damage of the kind that we just never before imagined in human history.
Now, if these two empires get into a war with each other, they both know that it will escalate. They will keep using more and more extreme force until eventually one side will use nukes, to which the other will respond with their own nukes. And then it's game over for everyone. Nobody wins, everybody loses, the world is on fire, the concept of victory becomes irrelevant because everyone's dead. This creates a calculus of fear, an understanding that you will inflict way more consequences on yourself if you go to war with your geopolitical rival. And this threat of total destruction is stronger than the urge to fight and dominate. After World War II, after we witnessed this destructive bomb in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, something changed. We crossed a line of understanding that there really was something that could really sort of end it all.
It's about convincing the other side that attacking is just not worth it. Convincing both sides that the price is just too high. And unfortunately, that means deterrence.
Deterrence, that is the word. That is the key concept. It comes from this root of like avoidance of something because of terror. Fear. Terror prevents you from acting. And it weirdly, strangely, paradoxically kind of works. Though this is debated by scholars, and when I was in grad school for peace and conflict resolution, there was a lot of compelling evidence that deterrence doesn't work, but I'm not getting into the literature right now. It is widely accepted that one of the major reasons great powers have not gone to war with each other directly in the last 70, 80 years is because of nuclear weapons. For those who want to dispute that claim, I am so stoked for your good faith argument and dissent in the comments. I will read it and respond because I love this stuff. Anyway, global politics today leans heavily on this grim logic, this balance of deterrence created by very destructive bombs that split atoms. But in order for deterrence to work, it can't just be the bombs. It has to have some other important ingredients. First up, the threat needs to be believable. It needs to be credible. Your enemy has to believe that you will actually, credibly, fire back a nuke. That you're not just making empty threats and bluffing all of the time, that you actually have the ability and appetite to fire one of these things off. What that means is you gotta have these things ready to go at all times. You gotta have maps of targets to hit. Thousands of targets in some cases, like here in these giant maps in a bunker command center that the US had, showing all the targets in the Soviet Union that they were ready to hit. The Soviets, of course, had a similar map of all the targets they were ready to hit. During the Cold War, the US had a bomber plane with a nuke on it in the air 24/7 for 8 years. Like, it wasn't the same plane. They were obviously doing patrols, but there was always one in the air ready to drop a nuke. And this is why it remained a Cold War. But the Soviet Union fell and the big standoff kind of chilled out a little bit. But today, credibility is just as important to all of the nuclear powers, especially the big dogs, US, China, Russia. They all still have their nukes pointed at each other all the time. And all three make it really easy to make the decision to launch one. They centralize the decision-making into one person, the top leader. Like in the United States, we do this. The president is the sole authority who can authorize a nuclear strike. And legally, no one can veto his decision. He could launch a nuke within 5 minutes using some special authorization codes and relying on this football. I know it's not a football, it's a briefcase, but it's called the nuclear football. And inside of this, there's a phone and a scary black book that lists out all of the potential targets that the president could authorize a strike on. How many people would die, what the effect would be. It's all right there, by his side all the time. And for those wondering, yes, it's that kind of football. Sorry, world. This is America. Okay, the next ingredient to deterrence is the ability to hit back. Meaning, if one nuclear country is able to destroy all of your nukes in a surprise attack, then the whole thing falls apart. They now are not deterred, because they can disarm you. So you gotta have more than one nuke, and you kinda gotta spread them out and hide them. The US does this by spreading its nukes out all throughout the world and dividing them up by delivery methods. Some are sitting in these big underground silos that are spread all across the middle of the country. There's just rockets in here, ready to launch at a moment's notice. Others are sitting on airplanes positioned all around the globe. And as of 2 weeks ago, the US positioned 10 of its bombers, probably carrying nukes, here on this tiny little island in the Indian Ocean called Diego Garcia, which I've made a video about and want to make another video about because it's wild. And yeah, there's just nukes on this island. North Korea, China, Russia, Iran. Beware, there's nukes here, says the United States. And then, of course, we've got nukes lurking in the depths of the ocean, sitting on submarines. These underwater buildings that are weapons and bases and command centers all in one. They can carry up to 20 missiles, each of them with multiple warheads. Like, the amount of destruction capability designed into these weapons is kind of unfathomable, and that's kind of the point. It has to be so bad, so easy to launch, that your enemy's like not messing with that. Anyway, these different delivery systems are called the nuclear triad. Russia has something like it too. China's kind of developing their own triad. And all of this is so that we have that second ingredient of deterrence, the ability to strike back. These things are safe from a surprise attack that would take out all of our nukes. Okay, so you've got credibility in that you're ready to go, you've got a second strike capability, but where the rubber meets the road is the last ingredient, and this is where the mind games begin. Red lines. You have to signal to your enemy what they would have to do to warrant an attack.
The signal to each other on what to do and what to not do, so you can create guardrails for your competition.
The cleanest and safest way to do this is to just say, hey, we will not attack anyone with our nukes unless they attack us with their nukes first. This is called a no first use policy, or nuclear doctrine. It's pretty straightforward. It's much more about just protecting your national survival. And this is what China has articulated as their policy. Most countries operate with this as their kind of de facto policy. Don't attack us with nukes or we'll nuke you back. It's a way of deterring anyone from trying to attack them.
Most other countries that has nuclear weapons fundamentally relies on them to assure the existence of their country. You have nuclear weapons and they're survivable. Your country's probably not going to be wiped off the map or be invaded.
But for the two big dogs on the stage, Russia and the United States, red lines are a way for them to kind of play mind games with each other because they believe that it would incentivize their enemy to do everything short of a nuclear attack. Chemical weapons, conventional attacks, all these other things that we also want to deter. So, both of them keep their red lines intentionally vague and fuzzy, forcing each other to constantly be questioning, where's the red line? Like, am I going too far? Am I going to trigger a nuclear strike if I do this or that? This keeps both sides very far away from provoking each other because they're not sure where the red lines are. And this is the mind game at the heart of modern nuclear politics. It's a very dangerous mind game, but it's nonetheless the one we have.
If deterrence ever fails, then you just have this really terrible thing that could affect humanity's long-term survival.
Okay, now time for some payoff. I'm going to apply this to the real world. We've been doing this kind of like conceptual, theoretical deterrence talk. I'm now going to show you how all of these ingredients and this deterrence plays out in the real world. First, Ukraine.
People will say, didn't Western deterrence fail because Russia attacked it all? And I would say, absolutely not. In fact, it is a case study of how nuclear deterrence actually works.
I'm going to make a list of all the moves and counter moves that these two nuclear powers play on each other.
The day the conflict started, Putin announced that he was putting his nuclear forces on high alert. It didn't quite have the intended effect, so like a few days later, he remade the same announcement. This time he had a photograph taken. That's a nuclear signal. But he meant that specifically for people like me who read that kind of stuff to say, oh, they're serious. I better tell Biden that this is serious.
Russia has shamelessly violated the core tenets of the United Nations Charter.
Putin was very clearly manipulating nuclear risk. He wanted all of Europe to know that Russia had nuclear weapons, and they should remember that.
The West immediately responded with sanctions, punishing Russia's economy. But beyond that, there was a big debate. There was some fear, some deterrence. Should we send military troops? Should we send weapons? Maybe just send money? We don't want to cross Putin's line.
The Russians drew a number of what they wanted us to believe were very clear red lines. If you supply them with mobile artillery, it'll be World War III.
Whoever would try to stop us and further create threats to our country, to our people, should know that Russia's response will be immediate and lead you to such consequences that you have never faced in your history.
See what he's doing here? Like, do you see how vague that language is? It's grand, it's scary, it's not specific. This is a blurry red line that forces the West to fill in the blanks for themselves, to think twice before sending troops or sending support, because what if he's serious? All right, your move, NATO.
Hundreds of thousands of NATO troops on heightened alert.
We're also taking steps to defend our NATO allies, particularly the